And away we go.
Yeah, we straight chillin', serial killing, pre-cold villains on the mind, got you reeling. 5-star rated from the floor to the ceiling. If you catch a 1-star, no time for feelings. Got a demon DJ on the ones and twos, by the name Elzebub, so don't get confused. So grab a seat by the fire, roast them all over two, and prepare to hear the legend of the straight chillin' crew.
What up, nerds, and welcome to a very extravagant episode of Straight Chilling, the weekly horror movie review show where you chill and we kill, slice, dice, and chop up yet another movie. My name is Bob. I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode 393, recorded on Sunday, October 23rd, 2022. Tonight, we're talking about not just one movie, not two, but three movies. Ooh. Another triple feature for your asses. We're talking about The Exorcist, The Exorcism of Emily Rose, and The Last Exorcism. Before we get into all that, let me introduce everyone else on the show. First up, calling in from Washington, D.C., we got our boy Randu. What's up, man?
Randu!
What's up, baby? You ready to get this train a-going? I'm excited to see what dwells within. How about you?
Yeah, possess me, daddy.
Now, it's very important, Bob. This is the episode of all episodes that you're going to need to keep the beat.
Keeping
So
the beat, keeping the beat. Yeah.
we're going to be on tight
I'm on
schedule here. So let's roll it on out.
I'm on it. Next up, we got our boy Soju. What's up, man?
Oh, what up? It's your boy. The power of Stains compels you. They call me Father Stains, aka Daddy Stains.
That sounds like a
man.
line from the Mr. Sparkle commercial in The Simpsons.
It actually reminds me of Over the Garden Wall, the
Oh.
ringing of the bell.
Oh, man.
That works.
The only thing
Sure.
that'll get that stain out some holy water, you know? That's it.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's the only thing powerful enough.
Powerful. Oh. All right. Well, before we get into the main event, let's tackle a little bit of housekeeping real quick. Here's another reminder. We have our November poll pick currently posted on our Patreon website. If you support us at the $5 level or above, you get the chance to vote on a movie we're talking about this November. This is Juice's takeover month. What movies are we voting on here, Juice?
Oh, you have the opportunity to vote between 3 animated films. They are Coraline, James of the Giant Peach, and The Nightmare Before Christmas. Bob, how are those numbers looking in the last week of spooky season?
Coraline is still winning. Nightmare's in second place, and so very little love for James and the Giant Peach.
Oh, James. I did see he got a couple more votes, though. So, people are representing.
Yeah.
A bunch of pity votes for James. He deserves better.
Well, you got one more week to change vote if you choose.
It's true.
Peach isn't that big. I've seen bigger.
Man,
Bullshit.
Bob goes to strip clubs every night. He sees bigger peaches on a Tuesday.
Nice fuzzy peaches.
James got that pancake peach, you know.
What the fuck are we even doing? All right.
Get your votes in before the end of
Extravaganza.
October, and we'll see what movie we're talking about this November. In other Patreon news, we've been dropping a brand new mini cast every Friday throughout the months of September and October. Last Friday, we dropped one on Crimes of the Future. And this coming Friday, Juice, I believe you were talking about this one. It's a brand new mini cast covering a new release called You Are Not My Mother.
Yes, this is a kind of a sneaky Halloween film too. So if you want to get it in right before spooky season ends, go ahead and check that out. It is, I think, a Scottish horror film. But it's pretty cool. It's based around a lot of folklore. You also get to see some cool Scottish Halloween traditions and like dive into a little bit of that folklore and stuff like that. So yeah, it was a pretty solid movie. I recommend you check it out before Halloween is finished.
I'm excited to see
Nice.
the epic conclusion of the Dr. Seuss Are You My Mother trilogy. Excited to check it out.
Yeah, check that out this Friday, dropping on our Patreon website. We've got over 80 mini casts on there now, so there's a pretty large catalog. We add to it every month, and if you support us at the $10 level or above, you get access to all of that.
So plump, so right.
Speaking of Patreon, we do have a brand new Patreon subscriber we got to give shout outs to.
That's all I have to contribute. We don't promise quality content.
Big thanks to Wyatt S for signing up and showing us some love on Patreon. Each dollar you guys contribute goes right back into the show. It really does mean a lot to us. And as is tradition around these parts, we owe Wyatt S the straight chilling salute. Here we go.
Slap me in the ass.
Whoa.
There you go,
Slap me in the ass, Wyatt. Thank you.
There you go, my dude.
So much.
Man.
I think that's all we have for housekeeping, which is nuts.
Well,
We've
I've
got
got
30
some
minutes on
housekeeping, dog.
Okay, what you
This
got?
house is still filthy, buddy.
Thanks for asking, Bob.
Oh my god.
Never asks.
Oh my
And we
god.
always have more to say.
I know. What are you doing? What's up?
If you are in the Seoul area, if anyone's listening from Seoul, this coming Sunday, the week before Halloween, I will be doing a special live event. I'm going to be participating in the Dice Latte's annual Halloween party. They are a cafe here in Seoul. They're a board game cafe. They do a lot of like Dungeons and Dragons and stuff. They also sell a ton of like graphic novels, comic books here. So really great cafe just in general, but they're having their annual Halloween party. And I'm going to be teaming up with The Dark Side of Soul, which is another podcast based here in Seoul. Sean was on one of our episodes previously. He was on Tale of Two Sisters. So we're going to be doing some spooky stuff and be doing some horror trivia, giving away some prizes and stuff like that. So come hang out the day before Halloween. Also, this week, I will be featured on a special episode of A Cut Above, where we will be talking about Sleepy Hollow. That's the film.
You really know how to
Sleepy
stretch
Hollow.
for dramatics purposes.
Yeah, and actually, I believe now I will have talked about all 3 poll pick movies that were on like our September poll pick or something.
Yeah.
Because there was Halloween, Rob Zombie 2's Halloween, which Bob lost, but then Jacqueline picked. And now this movie we're talking about. I already forgot the name
Sleepy
of
Hollow.
it.
Sleepy.
Oh my god.
Quality
Sleepy
content.
Sleepy Jews.
Yeah.
We're
Get the juice now.
talking about Sleepy Gary over here. No, Sleepy Hollow is what we're going to be discussing, and that is all my housekeeping.
One more
Sweet.
thing.
Oh.
Well, before we going, by the time you're listening to this, there was less than a week left to grab the limited edition Chilloween merch on our TeePublic store.
Oh yeah.
So hit that shit up. I'm not 100% sure because it's run mostly by TeePublic, but there might still be a sale going for those.
Yeah, they go up and down.
Yeah, get your eyes on that stuff, and by all means, get it while it's hot because it's not going to be around when it's not. So.
Oh, and there's one more thing. On this episode, somewhere between movies 2 and 3, you will be getting a throwback Screamin' and Creamin' right here on the Halloween extravaganza. I will be
Unbelievably amused.
Ice Cream Live, and I will tell you all about it.
This man's going to gestate frozen cream for your audio pleasure.
Yeah.
Well, boys who keep secrets don't get custard for dessert.
Well, I guess I'm getting custard then, because I just
guess
told
so.
you.
Oh man.
Yes.
It's happening.
Ooh, just rolling in the sweets, juice, rubbing it in. All right. All right, I believe our house is officially clean.
This house is clean.
All righty then. Let's go ahead and get into the main event. We're kicking it off first with The Exorcist. Let's start with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
All right, let's do this.
Whoa, that
All right.
Exorcist, not Exorcist 3.
No,
The
that's
first
bonus.
Exorcist.
The first
Um,
one. None of us here
some of
watched The Exorcist.
Some of us may have done a little extra credit in the form of watching the wrong film this week, but I have
And-
seen it many times. So
Get 3
I'm
guesses
confident.
of who did that.
Yeah,
Really
well, I
just
just
one.
revealed it,
Just
so you
one.
don't get any guesses. It's been revealed. Yeah,
So,
that's
yeah,
fine.
talking about the original 1973 film, The Exorcist, for the runtime of 2 hours and 2 minutes. This was written and directed by William Friedkin. Stars Ellen Burstyn, Max von Sydow, Linda Blair, Lee J. Cobb, some other folks. Plot synopsis brought to us by IMDb is as follows. When a teenage girl is possessed by a mysterious entity, her mother seeks the help of 2 priests to save her. And of course, this is based on William Peter Blatty's novel of the same name.
WPB.
We've definitely seen this before. We talked about it on the podcast quite a while ago.
Well.
Some of us did.
Everyone who matters talked about it already.
So here's a little
Yes.
fun fact. This is episode number 394. It was covered on episode 95. 5 episodes
Damn.
before 100, which is when we were supposed
Oh,
to cover it. But
supposed
Bob
to.
blew his load so early. So
Blew
now
my
here we are
load.
300 episodes later where I can actually discuss this film as I was supposed to. 300 episodes go. Finally righting that wrong, Bob.
Finally, and now we can
righting
stop
that
doing the
wrong.
show after this.
Yeah.
Finally.
I can finally go to my final resting place
Mhm.
under an
So yeah,
Alamo draft house somewhere.
we've all seen this movie several times. Silly question: would you recommend people check out The Exorcist? Juice, kick us off.
Yeah, I would recommend that you check this out. And of course, you know, this is an absolute classic, but I didn't see it until for the first time, until, you know, we were in college. And I remember watching it the first time at the twins' place, with twins are like freaking the fuck out. And I have like a really great memory of watching it there. And so like, you know, sometimes people don't watch the classics even if you're just getting into horror. I didn't watch a whole lot of horror movies back then. And so yeah, I would absolutely recommend that you watch this. Watch it with some buddies, watch it with some good drinks, have a good time freaking the fuck out. And yeah, absolutely watch this. Bob,
Oh God.
would you
Yeah.
recommend?
Yeah, I recommend. I have sort of a similar kind of memory. I watched this in high school for the first time, sort of late in high school with my buddy. We rented it from Blockbuster, pouring one out, and sat on the couch and watched it. And yeah, just like got horrified by what the shit we were seeing. And afterwards, we're like, oh my God, you need to like take a shower and read the Bible or whatever.
We're fine.
But yeah, absolutely recommend. Yeah, Randy, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I told this on the previous iteration of this conversation, but I first saw this movie in kind of an unusual situation where I was getting a gallbladder removed and I was on heavy medication at the hospital. So right around Halloween time, it was very
Damn.
strange, but actually it might have had a calming effect while watching the movie because I was like, this is kind of fucked up. Quiet in the middle, like at like 1 a.m. in this
Morphine.
fucking hospital. Dude, it was morphine time all weekend that week. Yeah, I had a great time watching this and definitely recommend it. Like every time I've seen this movie, it surprises me with how much craft and like I don't know how much craft is put into it that I had forgotten about, because you think about this movie in terms of like little flashes of culturally specific moments, but there's a lot more to it.
Yeah. Also, Randy recommends morphine. Check it out.
I can't recommend morphine enough, kids. Get your hands on some
Get
at
it.
any cost.
I'm gonna be
Costed.
eating ice cream. Randy's gonna be taking his morphine during the episode.
The slurred
Boys, you
speech
keep
will not be an
secrets.
accident.
Don't get morphine for dessert.
Some
Well,
people
yeah.
say it's unhealthy, but we ain't scientists, so
We are not. That is a hearty recommendation across the board from the Straight Chilling crew. Let's go ahead and drop that spoiler warning and get into the rest of the movie. Here we go.
Spoiler warning.
Juice. I get to ask you the question. Do you have a plot synopsis typed up?
No. Was
Oh,
I
well,
supposed
fuck.
to?
That's
I'm
this.
just
This is a
kidding.
mislead. Fuck that.
Just kidding. I do. All right, you ready?
Here we were wheezing the juice.
Let's go ahead and skip to the end. The film opens at an archaeological dig in the Iraqi desert. Here, aged Catholic priest and veteran exorcist Father Marin is given a stone talisman carved in the image of Pazuzu, a demonic entity that used to be worshipped by the Babylonians. The old priest's face looks troubled. Then the film cuts to Georgetown, where actress Chris McNeil is on site shooting a movie about student protest. Her close friend and associate Bert Dennings directs the film. Chris lives on location with her 12-year-old daughter, Ronald Reagan. Reagan has begun to entertain herself using a Ouija board, and has begun contacting someone she calls Captain Howdy. Not too long after her initial contact with Captain Howdy, Reagan begins to act strangely, such as stealing and cussing. These acts are then followed by supernatural occurrences. Oh my God. While on a shoot, Burke Dennings agrees to watch over her, and she is still under a powerful sedative. Chris is horrified when she arrives to find out that Burke is now dead. Whoa. Regan begins to show more extreme manifestations of demonic influence, and the church agrees to give her an exorcism. Two priests proceed with the exorcism in earnest, but the demon Pazuzu toys with them, mocking their efforts, and eventually kills the older priest. And then Father Karis, how do you Damien demands the demon leave the girl and enter him. Once it does, he jumps out the window to his death. At the end, at the end, the little girl's fine, can't even remember what happened, and a priest and a cop go watch a movie.
Hell yeah, they do.
You know, it's good to find love in such a difficult time.
The end.
The pictures? Do you like the talkies?
The top. Whoa.
I get free
reminds me of a
tickets.
time that is past. A simpler time, yes.
Perfect.
Do you like the picture show, Bobby?
Do you guys think this movie is still effective and like truly horrifying? I know some of these older movies that are considered classics feel a bit dated as time passes and maybe lose some of their punch. But like, does this one still kind of hold up for y'all?
So
Yes.
I will say when I watched it for the first time, again, saying like somebody who wasn't really watching a lot of horror films at the time, I had seen, my fair share and a decent amount and stuff, but wasn't watching them every week like we are now. And I remember freaking the fuck out, like legit. Now, of course, we were all feeding into each other and everything like that, having a good old time. But it just sticks out in my memory of like freaking the fuck out. And like I took, notes that we'll talk about. But like that spider scene or like the crab walk down the steps, that's classic. And it's just, I think it's effective because of the choice to have this little girl and the disturbing thing she does. I think my watch like today or whatever recently is that still troubles me. The things that like this little girl is doing, the fact that she has like no control, nobody has any control over it. I think that's still super effective.
Yeah, I mean,
Rick, you feel the same way?
Yeah, I mean, I feel roughly the same. Like, to me, it's like there's a lot of people that will watch it now, and like especially a lot of younger people will watch it and say like, "Oh, it's not that great, it's not that scary," and that's both a byproduct of like being young and wanting certain things from horror movies, and also a byproduct of it being the age that it is. Like, it's got the age factor on its side, but to me, the age does not harm it. It in fact helps it. It helps it, and it's like retelling the story of The Exorcist, the film, and like the impact that it had and all that stuff. But also, it really just this movie it succeeds on the back of its groundedness. Those elevated moments are only so effective because they're sold by the really grounded moments, and I think that's something you kind of like. You have to be in a certain frame of mind in order to appreciate that aspect of a horror movie. Like if you're going in and you just want body counts or something, this isn't going to be the movie for you. And so I think it's you know, for viewers that aren't really down for that sort of thing or just don't have the patience for it, I could see it falling short for them. But ultimately, like the time and place this came out, the impact it had, it's kind of unimpeachable in my opinion. So.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Bob, are you not impressed by this film?
I am.
Why do you hate this film?
I think some people just like to be contrarians and watch this movie and sort of say, "Oh, it's not that bad. It's not that bad." But like, no, this movie's like pretty damn effective and extremely horrific. I will say, the first time I watched it in high school, the edit that I rented from Blockbuster was not the director's cut. So it did not have the spider walk scene in it. That's only in the director's cut. So I missed that part. And there was a couple years where I was like, did that like really happen? Or like, are people like, I was so confused. But then I picked up a Blu-ray copy of the director's cut and it's on there.
Thank God.
But yeah, I think this, just to sort of jump off of what you guys were saying, is like, it's so effective because it is so grounded. You spend so much time with this single mother and her child, and she's so worried for her, and they're doing anything and everything they can think of to try and help this kid out, and it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. Oh my God. And I think like the doctors are so baffled by the situation. I think it's really interesting that they are the ones that are like, maybe we can do an exorcism. Like they got nothing else.
It's either it's like we don't, if we keep treating this girl, we're going to be blamed for whatever happens next. Let's just give it to the next guy down the way because we got nothing.
Well, yeah, I liked it too because it was like a person of means. You know, I liked that it was so she was able to do anything. And she, you know, at one point she's like 85 doctors and nobody could do anything. I mean, and a part of it is this groundedness of, we like watch her go through her procedures. There's one scene that's really bothering me where they're freaking sticking her neck and the blood
with
is
the
just
blood spurts.
I'm not down with that shit. So that was really bothering me. But also too, just like pure desperation of, and people still, with the crazy shit that's going on that this mother is living with, apart from just like wanting her daughter back and to be okay, but living with this entity of people coming in and seeing this shit and being like, you know, I think her frontal lobe is, it's like, motherfucker, what are you doing? She's
floating, man.
It is not in the file.
But I like that. I like that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Like that's what, like that's the thing I always appreciate, like when watching it again. It's, you know, all that elevated horror stuff or whatever. Like, I'm sorry, that's now a term. But what I mean, all that really like heady, like horror graphic stuff is all really effective on its own merits. But it is just so sold by these very naturalistic characters. Ellen Burstyn being like just absolutely at her wit's end the whole fucking movie, basically, after things start kicking off anyway. And then Father Karras being at the end of his religious rope and how that impacts him as he goes through all this stuff. It's all just like very, very fucking well crafted, built into the real world is this horrific thing. And that's how it should feel in this. This is not like a normal situation. It's being sold as like this insane, like this is basically Lucifer incarnate. That doesn't happen all the time, you know. It's treated with the same level of care by the story as it would be in reality, where they go through every option available before they land on the most unlikely option of exorcism.
Yeah, I also think it's really cool that we get into Father Karras in his like headspace a little bit, like because we meet this priest who is in the middle of struggling with his faith, and he ends up losing his mother. She passes away, and he feels a lot of grief for that, and specifically because he like left her alone and she was dead for a couple days before anybody found her. So he's like really beating himself up, and like in a bizarre way, this like horrific thing happening to this little girl that he gets to witness, I think really just helps like bolster his faith, because it's, you know, proof of the devil, you know, it's proof of you know, God and whatnot, you know. It's sort of, you can't have one without the other. I think it's just simply evil. Yes. An interesting like sort of time in this dude's life where he's intersecting with this like demon and shit. And I think that adds a lot to the character. All these characters feel like really well fleshed out and like well put together, and I think it just adds to the craft. Everybody's sort of banging on all cylinders here, I think.
Well, I would say
This
it
is
brings it to like a great head towards the end.
Yeah,
Like the
yeah.
climax of this film, because I could see people saying like, oh, it's too slow the way it's crafted. Because I mean, you do spend a lot of time diving into these characters, and even you don't actually spend a lot of time with the Father Mayor or whatever. You see him at the very beginning. But even that, I was, at the beginning, I was like, okay, I haven't seen this while. I was going through kind of like the motion. I was like, I forgot this happened. I forgot this happened. And I was like, okay, yeah, a little slow, but like, where's this going? Where's this thread? And then it all really does come to this head where, his trouble, you don't spend a lot of time with Mara, but he comes in swinging and his performance is like so heavy, but also you have a little context there. Like, that he's troubled by this. You get to see, that statue kind of fade in to effect at one point, but also too, with the other priest and his mother, it really starts to break him down. And yeah, and he's a pretty, solid guy, even, after his mother dies. He just seems like very kind of like stone cold a little bit. He's very
Steve
not
Austin.
Steve Austin, but
yeah,
but
Austin 316. I know it, buddy.
but
They
seeing
do
him
crush some beers. So.
seeing
They
him
do.
like break
All over the
down
candy
yeah,
ass.
and be and be willing to kind of like take that sacrifice, really feel like that Exorcist scene like really built up to something quite amazing and paid off for about 30 minutes of the film of like, holy
Yeah,
shit.
yeah.
Yeah, it really
I-
is like it's all. I'm sorry, Bob. Go ahead.
I just think it would be hilarious to watch a remake of this, which we're getting a sequel from David Gordon Green, so who
Oh,
knows what that's
God.
going to turn out to be. But what if we
Yeah.
actually got Stone Cold Steve Austin, like, jumping off the rafters onto this girl's bed and like spilling beers everywhere? And
I'll tell you what, Pazuzi, I've had about enough of your candy ass.
There's a John 3:16, Austin 3:16.
Austin 3. 5 stars. 5 stars
Yeah.
across the board.
That's David Gordon Green coming into his own. Yeah, no, I just like, I have nothing but praise for this film overall. I genuinely don't know what I would critique about it. The most I could say is that it's fairly slow at the beginning, but to me, that is not a detriment in the best of situations, and that's this situation, because every thread that they make, for the most part, is either helps ground things in a level of reality, or it helps sort of like sell forward the more high level, like conceptual, like insane things that happen later on. And the idea that this is like, it's very plain to see why exorcism became popularized in as a trope after this film, because they established so many fucking great things. But it's also not that surprising that it's hard to repeat this insane trope in any capable fashion, because the things that they do are just like, most movies don't have the patience to put forward the amount of care into the front end of their film to where that second half really rips, and I think that's what happens here. So
it's like pretty crazy to me. Oh, I did have one critique that I'll come back to in just a second, but like, it's pretty crazy to me how popular this film got. And it's so interesting because of the like Christian dynamic of the country at the time. That this won Academy Awards. I mean, I was watching some videos of like the release of this, and like people waiting in these crazy lines to watch this movie. I mean, it was like in trivia, it's like if you factor in inflation, it's like the 9th highest grossing film of like all time. It's
Really?
like,
Huh.
yeah, crazy how much of a cultural impact. It made me think of when we were talking about Blair Witch, where we finally covered Blair Witch, and we're like, it might be like a kind of dated a little bit, but you have to remember like the cultural impact that it had at the time. And this absolutely like shook the country.
Yeah.
And it's
That's
so
very true.
interesting to me about how popular it got with the Christian dynamic, because I mean, they're using this 12-year-old girl. And we talked about this too, in the idea of like with Bob's Burgers, where they have this character who it's kind of very taboo to sexualize a 12, 13-year-old girl in any kind of media. And so they use like a man's voice, like a man is voicing her. And to have this, she was 14 at the time, playing a 12-year-old. I mean, like the things, even her walking into the room and like peeing on the rug, like in front of this adult party, like that's so taboo. And of course the crucifix to the cooch scene, I mean that's a huge, I mean
dude, I forgot that she takes her mother's face and rubs it in her crotch.
Oh my God, while she's saying lick me.
I was clutching my pearls, man. Still,
that's a lot, man.
God.
I mean, in the 70s,
you could never do that in a movie today. Never.
I mean, you couldn't really do it then either. Like you shouldn't have been able to.
I don't know, man. I think it all sells it forward, and like it's understandable why this touched a nerve with a broader audience in the United States, partially because of the religious stuff in it. It's not that this transgresses upon religion, but ultimately it is a pro-religion movie. Like this is a pro-Catholicism movie, and it also like helped bring back, or not bring back, but like sort of like it sort of helped proliferate even more of that level of thinking when it comes to horror movies. Like there's always been like, you chase Dracula around with a cross, you know what I mean? Shit like that. But this movie, I think, really like put it into real terms that people understood about the church at the time. So I think there's something to be said about that, and about like the direction that sort of skewed things from there. This and like The Omen and Rosemary's Baby, like, I mean, it's tough to imagine that these things didn't help lead to satanic panic and shit like that had broader implications for the world, for the country anyway. So I don't know. I think, I mean, its legacy is what it is. People took from it whatever they wanted, but obviously it touched a nerve with a lot of people. And I think that the reason this got a pass, whereas something like Silent Night, Deadly Night wouldn't have gotten a lot of Christian fans, is because ultimately what you see is a tale of a man regaining his faith. That is the central story here.
That's true. And it really does have that kind of like warriors for God feel. Like that scene is intense, and even though this old crusty man comes in, he could barely stand half the time, he's taking his medicine or whatever, he's got a power behind him, and it's also too crazy how successful the scene is, because a lot of the time it's them reading the Bible. I mean, you have to look at what's actually happening here and say like, wow, they really sold that shit. Reading the Bible as powerful and interesting and engrossing, and you're like you're waiting for what's gonna happen next. That's like, that's good for them, man. But it really does have that like warriors for God type of feel,
I guess that's why it was generally accepted, I guess. I don't know. I mean, that's really all I can think of.
I think in order to offset the level of like depravity that they went through or went to, like with general public, in order to get buy-in from them, they had to go all in on the Christian angle. And not to say that that's like, something that this story could have done without. It definitely is about that and should be about that. I'm just saying, like, that really, like, I don't think other movies that would have gone this far would have gotten the same level of acceptance, and it's because of that.
Yeah, you're right. And it's crazy that it can toe that line so carefully. It literally toes it perfectly, because you get both sides of the appeal, because you have the people who are want to see something shocking. They don't want to see the regular old, like, kind of Leave It to Beaver. I mean, you did have movies like Rosemary's Baby that had come out before this and stuff like that. And so this isn't, completely out of left field or anything, but you get the people who are into this kind of subculture, or who are in the younger crowd who are pushing for like more extremes, but you also get the religious crowd, the older crowd, the Leave It to Beaver crowd, who have this film of this innocent, completely pure young youth taken, just snatched away and corrupted by degradation and, forced into these sexual acts and these things. And then you have the faith standing up and fighting for her and saving her and pulling her and standing up for like the mother and so you really get, as extreme as this movie is, they just toe it just perfectly. It's crazy.
Yeah, they really do. And it like we'll see as we're gonna see tonight, and just throughout the exorcism tropes that are established after this film, it is very easy to fuck that up. Extremely easy.
Oh yeah.
Or to fall short anyway. And yeah, it's a tightrope act, and it's clear to me why this is still the gold standard, and why, as far as I'm concerned, I don't think any exorcism movie since has come close. But
yeah,
I can't think of one.
I think I would agree with that statement. There's a lot of other good exorcism movies, but not anything that's touched this one at all.
It's weird because like
iconoclastic.
It's weird because like The Conjuring doesn't like initially stick out as like a type of exorcism movie, but it is. Yeah, a little girl.
That's true. There is the language of exorcism in other films.
That
don't have it in the title. That's very true.
Yeah, and it's a completely bait. But even then, they have the religious stuff going on. So I mean, The Conjuring like is the one that kind of comes to mind where it's like, it's not necessarily about exorcism, but it's the same thing.
Fuck, you could say Evil Dead is not about exorcism, but about demonic possession. Like like even Demons, which is an even older film, I believe, or around the same time, the Italian film, which is a nonsensical film about demons, but it's still demonic possession is not a new topic. It's really, I think, just the level of success that they had both craft wise and culturally with this film that makes it like untouchable. Like I don't know how you would even come close.
Yeah.
Now
the effects. All the effects hold up pretty damn well too. You've got the head spinning all the way around. Just the general makeup on Reagan with like her cuts and her bruises, and like she starts getting really pale, and her eyes like change colors and like have a glow to them.
Is it Regan or Reagan?
I think Reagan, you can say it both ways.
Yeah.
Is it? Okay.
Reagan is, I think, what her mother says, but other characters have different accents.
Okay, because I kept thinking, like, no, it's not like Ronald Reagan. But then I was like, wait, but that sounds the most natural.
Yeah. I think the spider walk.
Gotcha.
The spider walk is good. The puking of, like, the split pea soup bullshit is, like, solid.
Yeah.
It all holds up, man. It all still, like, packs a punch and, like, freaks me out.
You know what's interesting is like of all the like gore in this movie, at least from the way that I remember this, is that the gore is mostly implied. Like there's some stuff that they show explicitly, and it's like the head twist or the pea soup, which I wouldn't qualify as gore, either of those, but they're just nifty effects that are like like tone setters.
Yeah.
And so like it does. I guess what I'm getting at is it doesn't really rely on like traditional gore effects the way that a lot of other ones do.
When she does the spider walk, I think she's like bleeding from her mouth or something.
Yeah.
I mean, there's blood, but I mean like gore isn't like you don't see a lot of knives going into bodies.
Sure.
It's very much like a like what's not shown is scarier sort of situation.
Like
and even the director. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up. When he dies, they describe his death, but we don't ever see it. But like they use his corpse to desecrate the church, and like his head is like spun all the way around, and he like was drunk and quote fell down the stairs. But we all know he was launched out the window to his death. So I'm sure he was a hell of a sight to come upon, but we don't see that.
Yeah.
Very
I like
true.
the implication there. Now that was going to be the one thing I was like, I could see people critiquing this on, where Rainer's like, I don't know what critique is of all the characters who at the beginning of the movie I was like, okay, this is slow, but I see that they're putting some pieces in place. I couldn't remember it all the way through. But like the cop and his kind of personality, the detective and stuff like that, it's grounded because obviously a man died outside the thing. So, and it adds a little pressure and paranoia to the mom, so I think that's kind of effective of where he comes over and she's like trying to kind of hide it a little bit, save her daughter and stuff. But it really doesn't, he could easily not be there and it wouldn't really change the film.
That's true, but at the same time, like I love I'm trying to look up that actor's name. He is fucking great in this and otherwise. Okay, I'm having trouble finding it, but Like, I just love his performance, and to me, it's that thing where it's like I can understand that being a critique for some. It's not for me because I love seeing this guy do his work. He's just really kind of just laying it down there, and like you said, it's more of that grounding, more of that pipe work being laid, so that you can make a solid structure on top. That not every movie takes the time to lay quite this much. And it can live without it sometimes. I think this movie, you were probably right, it probably could live without it, but I wouldn't want it to. Like, I like having him there.
I wouldn't either. I think he
Yeah.
actually makes the other characters stronger. Like, he himself, I don't think really amounts to anything. He does a good job, but he has two like main kind of conversations. One's with the priest and one is with the mother. And I think both of those scenes help to strengthen both of those characters. And so in that way, he's effective, but not necessary. And that was really the only thing that stood out to me from like a craft standpoint that was like, I could see that, but trying to be fair, I guess, or just trying to throw something out there.
Yeah.
Something interesting I learned from rewatching Exorcist 3. This actor's name is Lee J. Cobb. Okay. His name is Lee J. Cobb. I best know him, and it seems like, at least according to IMDb, he's best known for 12 Angry Men. He's one of the principal characters in that film, which is one of America's greatest films, in my opinion. And his character from that film is played again in the 90s remake of 12 Angry Men by George C. Scott, who also in the 90s reprised this role of Kinderman as basically the principal character of The Exorcist 3. Weird. So that's just kind of an interesting factoid. Is like George C. Scott basically picked up where this guy left off on like all of his roles.
Okay.
Anyway, both are great actors, and I love them both. Both performances are really great. I've never seen George C. Scott scream nonsensically and not laugh my ass off. So it's great.
I've actually never seen The Exorcist 3, and that's something we were talking about. I actually picked The Last Exorcism because you had talked about it before, Randy. And I had never seen that one. And me and Bob watched Emily Rose in the theater back in the day when we were supposed to be working.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
And simply evil.
Have to get around to the old Exorcist 3 at some point, I guess.
Another 300 episodes, we'll do it.
That's one of those that's like slowly had a resurgence of popularity amongst horror fans. I would like to talk about it sometime soon because I just watched it.
We got to go through all the Saws first, and then all the Paranormal Activities.
No, fuck you. Fuck you.
Fuck you.
We got to do Saw 5.
Fuck you.
We got to do Saw 5. Okay.
There it is.
All right. So should we? Sorry.
I had like one little anecdote. Burke Dennings, the director, I forgot like what a squirrely like party animal that guy is in this movie. He's hanging out at the party like clearly pretty drunk, and he like brings his drink up and he goes, "Oh, there seems to be an alien pubic hair in my drink." It's like, what? That sounds like a problem, brother.
And
like,
also, when he was like calling that dude a Nazi and shit, and like just getting in fights and shit. I guess it just makes it more believable that he would get drunk and fall down some stairs.
Yeah.
I think
that
that's
dude came to party.
It adds that element of doubt, but also it adds that element of, I liked too the conversations that the mom and daughter had before she starts freaking out, because then it also adds that thing, and like she's like, "Oh, are you gonna marry him?" She's like, "What?" But it also adds this touch of like, it's personal, this is not just the director, they're friends, they spend a lot of time together, maybe something else is going on, you don't really know. And so that adds just kind of to the mom's character of trauma too, of like, not only is her daughter going through this terrible situation, she's lost a good friend, coworker, whatever, and dealing with the fact that her daughter killed him and all that, it's so heavy.
It's so interesting to me, like you said, that this is a movie where like her level of privilege is so high. At one point in this movie, they talk about, "Oh, you've been invited to go dinner at the White House. It's only like 6 people." She's like, "Oh, okay." And it's like everyday thing, and I'm like, that's fucking insane. And like I think about like The Omen, sort of the same deal. It ends on a note that's related to that. And I don't know, there's something fascinating about that. And I wonder if there's some like anti-government feeling in the mix somewhere in there. I don't think it's well portrayed if it is. But it just seems like trust in the government, like early 70s. So I guess not quite to the Watergate level yet. I don't know. I don't remember exactly when that hit. But like the trust in the government was dipping, and it just keeps dipping throughout the years. So I wonder if that's just kind of in the mix somewhere, is I guess what I'm getting at.
It also has this kind of little hint of like no one's safe. Like in The Conjuring, it's more like a tragic level, or like I was actually kind of thinking of The Conjuring 2, where it's these people who have like no means to help themselves. They're completely desperate for anyone to give them any kind of attention, can't afford to do anything else. But also on the flip side of this, and like with The Omen, it's like nothing can save you. Your money can't save you here. You're dealing with the devil.
Right. Yep. I like having the mix of those things, which I guess will eventually help in our conversation about other films tonight.
Yeah.
Let's keep the beat though.
Keeping the beat. The music.
The theme is one of the most iconic themes that's ever been written for any movie.
For sure.
Actually, I don't know that it was scored for this movie specifically. I forget the story on the Tubular Bells, but it's a very long piece of work, but they definitely use it in this movie. And if it wasn't scored for this film, it was definitely made famous by it. That's for sure. And I think it was allegedly an inspiration for John Carpenter whenever he was scoring Halloween as well. I mean, endless influence there.
And the Saw theme.
Yeah. I don't know. Is there any other points we need to hit on before we rate The Exorcist?
Good.
I finally got my day.
Finally, you got your day in court.
I brought some fresh takes today.
Fresh takes and hot cakes.
Here's my hot take. This is a good movie.
You guys heard of this movie, The Exorcist? It's pretty good.
Probably not. It's a deep.
You probably haven't heard. Yeah, this is a deep cut. Nobody's seen this little lost gem.
Only your boy Juice. I'm the only one
bringing it forth. All right.
Let's rate this thing out of 5. Juice, kick us off. How do you feel about The Exorcist?
Yeah, I just want to go through, some of my notes, I guess, just a couple things. There's this moment again, the Exorcist scene, like leading up to and everything, the 30 minutes of it or whatever, it's like everything feels like so powerful. Every little line. There was one that he asked what her middle name is. And she says, Teresa, and he says like, oh, what a lovely name. And it's just like, he delivers that so like well. Every line he delivers.
Was that Von Sydow?
No, it was
Father Marin.
Yeah, Father Marin. Yeah, he's asking her, "What is your daughter?" Yeah, and he just says like, "What a lovely name," and like his just like sense of kind of care and understanding and sympathy with this mother who's going through terror. But then like he goes in there like, "The power of Christ compels you." Like I don't know, man. That 30 minutes is just so powerful. Dude. I love watching it. It's so awesome.
Von Sydow is such a fucking adds so much to that scene. Like his voice, his performances in general. Like he like this is one of the great actors of this era in film and before. Like he was already like the A-list for life, lifetime achievement level guy. And he does this film and just brings all of that weight to it. It's great. I don't know how else. It's just there's no critical thinking here. I'm just saying how great it is.
I just want to bring in that point that every little line, it wasn't just like the big ones. It's like every little thing had weight to me.
And Ellen Burstyn too. If it wasn't for Requiem for a Dream, I'd call this her like best performance that I've seen. But like she is like unbelievable in that, so somehow she tops this out and she does so well here.
Everybody does. There's not a bad actor or actor like in this film.
Those are just probably the two bigger names. That's it.
There was the idea of a hypnotized demon is hilarious because like a demon actually follows.
Don't watch Exorcist 2.
It's just like funny the idea of like, who am I speaking to? And like the person inside Reagan needs to come out, and it like totally did. So that was kind of funny.
Grabs them by the balls.
Yeah.
And much on some grinding.
Of course, the fog shot is so damn cool, and they utilize this setting really well. I love going around the city and the town, like you're in the church sometimes. It's just different areas, and always just like I just like the feel of it in general. It works really well. Again, the disturbing stuff of having this, Linda Blair does like an amazing job. They do some like really disturbing things that are like simple though. Like I said, her just going in there when everybody's just having a party, an adult kind of party, and just like pees on the rug. And all those, it's very, very effective because it's so taboo and she is so young. And yeah, it was powerful with the mother too when she gets to the hospital and she's like, "Oh, why'd you do this to me, Damie?" or whatever. It's like, man,
Oh, it's so sweet.
Damie, oh, why you do this to me? I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, this poor son of a bitch.
Yeah, I just feel like there's so much weight in almost everything that kind of happens in this. The people feel likable without having to be a whole lot. They're just like regular,
or without being perfect.
They're just like regular people. They feel, even a movie star who's going to the White House, she doesn't feel like some big hoity-toity thing. Like she's just a regular person. The priest
at home, she is totally normal, and like you never see her like big league anybody or whatever. She does live in a big league though.
Sure.
And like, having these little house parties that feature, major directors and shit, that's not a normal thing. But it's also a normal thing to have your friends over and sing songs or some shit.
Drink some wine.
So it feels like it could have happened on any street in the city.
And her discussion with her daughter and everything, it feels pretty natural and really well grounded for a movie about this kind of subject. So of course, overall, it's going to be a 5-star film for me. Put me on the books, Bob. Put it down on the books. I need it on the books. 300 episodes later, on the books.
Dude, you got it. It's written down in pen, finally.
I'm clearly drinking too much because I completely forgot you were in the middle of your review and I kept chiming in.
Well, I was just going to let you go. I saw Rob checking in and being like,
That's my B.
Bob, out of 5, The Exorcist.
And keep it quick.
Yeah, right. I mean, I don't have much to add other than what we've said. This movie is like damn near flawless. It's a classic that's referenced time and time again for a reason, because it is so insanely well made. I think it holds up today against any exorcism movie out there, any of them. I mean, 5 stars. It's a 5-star movie. I mean, it's a little long in the first half though, so like maybe I should.
Bob, I was looking at your old score, and this was not a 5-star film on our books.
It's true. He softened.
So I had to correct this injustice as well.
Okay. Did I give it a 4.5? Do you remember?
I think you gave it a 4.5. It was you, Brad, and Randy. Randy gave it a 5. Really? Brad gave it a 4. You gave it a 4.5.
Whoa.
Mr. Hotcakes ain't here to defend that, but we'll get him.
Yeah. I'll give it the old 5. Randy, how do you feel?
I don't feel any different. Like I said, like any complaints I have would be me trying to put myself in the shoes of somebody who feels differently about movies in general.
Yeah,
that's not what I'm going to base my score on. Like there's going to be people who just are there for spectacle only and are going to be bored by the first half. I don't care about those people. There's other movies for them. Fast and the Furious exists. Go enjoy yourself.
I don't care about you.
I don't care about that. Like, that's not going to impact my score, is all I'm saying.
You can die in the street. I don't care.
I don't care.
Personally, I will personally press the button that murders you.
The murder button.
The murder button. That's a film, right?
We've all been there, huh, boys?
I'm going to keep this short. I don't have a whole lot of things to say that I haven't already said in the middle of Justin's review. So it's a 5-star for me. I don't think that, like, culturally, craft wise, storytelling, acting, like, there's no weak point for me. So I'm giving it a 5 and I'll stand by that.
Nice.
All right. Quick math says our aggregate is definitely a 5-star. Let's go ahead and jump into our Rotten Tomatoes segment, see what the critics and users think about The Exorcist.
Certified to death.
All right. Was I supposed to look this up? Sorry, I forgot.
Yeah.
We are on all cylinders tonight.
We are taking turns hosting these segments, which is different. It's a little different. Your boy Juice over here not ready.
I do have trivia. Well,
that's good. I'm sure there's a ridiculous quantity.
Okay, I got it. All right,
Almost
boys.
certainly.
The Exorcist, 1973. We have 86 critics who rated this film.
Oh wow.
So 86. We'll start with Bo Bear. Bo Bear, where do you think the
We played
critics
this
lie on
game
this?
before. So
We did, and I
Yeah.
don't. It was so long ago.
Dude, I
It's
mean,
gotta
that was
be
like
like
6 years ago.
yeah.
It's got to be like
It's true.
crazy nuts in the butts high.
I don't remember what last week's score was.
I don't either. I don't even know what movie it was or what we were doing or where I'm at. I'm gonna go with like
Yeah.
a 96.
All right.
96.
96. Randy.
Who am I? Yeah, I mean, it's got to be pretty high. I feel like there's definitely going to be like the hot cake. This is an old enough movie to like really very new movies and very old, very established, iconic movies. There's always going to be like, I think at least a 5% dip based on contrarians out there. So I think 96 is a good guess. I'm just going to go one lower, 95. Take the low end of that.
95. All right. Randy's going to $1 down, even though he always bitches at us about it.
Yeah,
Oh,
he
yeah.
does.
I mean, turnabout's fair play, motherfucker.
All right. Randu is going to take it. This is certified fresh, but boys, out of 86 critics, the overall rating is 84%. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's like each person counts for more than 1% there. So I guess that
I don't
makes a kind
care
of sense.
about you.
The
thing
you
is, I
can
don't care about
die in
them.
the street.
It is not in the file.
The critic consensus is The Exorcist rides its supernatural theme to magical effect, with remarkable special effects and an eerie atmosphere, resulting in one of the scariest films of all time. It also is always going to carry that title, which, good for it. Like, one of the scariest movies of all time. Whether you agree or not, it's how it's remembered. So
I honestly think that's what begats a lot of these hot takes, because people come in with that expectation and they're like, oh, but Paranormal Activity scared me more, so this movie's bullshit now. And that's like not the like that's just that's like just a thing somebody ascribed to this movie. The movie is not trying to be the scariest of all time. It was just trying to make an effective and scary movie.
Yeah.
So I won't hold that to that standard.
We have a big audience rating. It's 250,000 people have rated this. This is before they got too strict on their user ratings. So Randu, what do you think the audience score is going to be?
I mean, I like using the logic I was just espousing. I got to go lower. I think that most people who see this are either going. Actually, you know what? I feel like there's probably a lot of like people who backlash on it because A, it's not the scariest movie of all time after all to them, or B, it's I'm a religious person who's decided I hate this movie and I'm going to let everybody know about it as much as I can. Or it's just like somebody who like gets bored in the first half of a movie that doesn't move at a mock pace. So I think that's three very specific movie fans that will accommodate quite a bit of change here. I'm going to go down to a 75.
75. All right. Robert.
Well, I'm gonna $1 up with a 76.
Whoa.
Saucy bitch.
Whoa. Well, Bob is going to take it. It is an 87%, so actually higher than the critics. Bob, you want a house ski?
Yes, please.
Bob, you want your little house ski?
Randy, give it to him. You gotta give it. Lost.
Give it to me.
Also, sorry, Randu, what's your chant? You gonna do the Randu bump for your win?
Oh God, no!
All right,
that'll work.
There is, of all the critics that I can see, the reviews, there's one negative. It is a top critic. Richard Combs from Sight and Sound said this: the film continually struggles to suggest through atmosphere what it promises, but fails to provide in substance. What?
I'm not sure what he was looking for.
The substance?
Really lacking in substance here.
Why is this movie so thin?
Yeah, right.
What the fuck? That is all of the Rotten Tomatoes segment for The Exorcist.
All right.
Fantastic. It is now
Let's do it again.
Totally time for trivia.
Oh, wait.
It's totally time for trivia.
And then we'll do it again.
Bob, you got this
Sure.
trivia?
No, because you do. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Again, the highest grossing Warner Brothers film of all time when adjusted for inflation. Oh, that's a little different than what I said before. But I did hear something that like adjusted for inflation was like the 9th highest grossing film of all time or something.
Oh,
like that.
Warner Brothers makes shit movies, as we've all learned. So
Well, and
that's
also
not-
I also think with the adjusted for inflation, it was like the highest R-rated movie of all time too, something like that.
Yeah.
The scene where she vomits all over the priest only required one take. The vomit was intended to hit Jason Miller in the chest, but the plastic tubing misfired, hitting him in the face. I was watching too because I looked up this. It says his reaction of shock and disgust while wiping away the vomit is genuine. And Miller admitted in an interview that he was very angered by the mistake. He looks like fucking surprised and pissed.
We got a winner.
Oh, this is interesting. Okay, so this is totally, I didn't remember that I wrote this down for trivia. Okay, so before starting the exorcism, Father Marin asked what the daughter's middle name is. In the Middle Ages, Catholics used to give their children several names as they believed it would hinder Satan from finding out the child's real name and controlling one's souls. So I actually remember that because I was having a lesson with one of my students the other day, and they were like, why do you guys have middle names? Because Koreans don't have middle names. And I was like, well, actually, I think it comes from an old tradition of being scared that Satan was going to take your baby away. So that helped
Come
me out. Before starting, oh no, that's it. The Exorcist is the first horror film to be nominated for the Academy Award for Best Picture. The only other one is Get Out. 2017. 2017. Jaws, The Silence of the Lambs, and one more was nominated. How about you boys guess? Okay.
The Shape of Water. If you
Okay.
count that.
Well,
That's the question: is if you're going to count that. Well, he said nominated also, so
yeah.
Okay.
Shoot, I don't know if I can get that off the top of my head.
We've covered it on
Yeah.
this cast.
I'm sure we have, but we just established I don't remember shit. So
yeah. Like what movie we're watching.
yeah. Which Halloween are we reviewing again?
So yeah, Rob's gotta be right, but they didn't mention it, so I don't know when this trivia is written. It was The Sixth Sense. So it says the only other one is Get Out. It says the only other one is Get Out, 2017. Jaws, The Silence of the Lambs, and The Sixth Sense were all nominated, and The Silence of the Lambs won, but these films are not designated as horror films on IMDb. Oh my god.
Just
Okay.
so
Fucking-
ridiculous.
Yeah, they had to do that. Like the thriller horror bullshit.
Ugh.
This is why genre names can fuck themselves. It's not worth it.
That man is making a skin suit from women that he's kidnapped and murdered. Like, it is a horror movie.
No, it's
Yeah.
a psychological thriller, Bob. The psychology of ripping skin off and wearing it.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
The demon seen throughout the movie is my boy Pazuzu, a demon known in Babylonian mythology as the demon that brings famine during the dry seasons and locusts during the rainy seasons. Son of a bitch, he's always got something up his sleeve, doesn't he? He was the
My
king of.
boy.
He was the king.
My boy.
He was the king of the demons of the wind. I guess there's some demons of the wind, and he's king of them.
Hell yeah.
The demons. That sounds like
The demons of passing wind.
a really shitty like biker gang. The demons of the
Like
wind.
nothing I'd ever smelled before in
Our
my
leader
life.
Pazuzu.
There it is. I just broke some demon wind.
Mhm.
Okay, so there was another famous actress who was considered for the lead of this film. Can you guess who that was?
As in Ellen Burstyn's role, or as in Linda Blair's?
Right.
No,
Yeah.
the mom, the mothers.
Mm.
I'm gonna say, well, no. Let me think about this.
That is a good question that I have no idea what the answer
I'm gonna
is.
say,
Think about Rosemary's Baby.
okay, well, Mia Farrow, I guess.
No, I was just throwing you off this.
Okay, well, what an asshole. I was gonna say Janet Leigh.
Now, Audrey Hepburn was actually the first choice to play the role, and Warner Brothers supported her, but apparently she only agreed to do it if it was filmed in Rome. I don't know why. Guess she's chilling in Rome or something.
Sorry,
Ate at
baby, not
Georgetown.
American enough.
Yeah,
She's on a Roman holiday. What can you do?
And finally, the demon mask used in the movie Onibaba, which is a Japanese film from 1964, inspired them to use a similar design makeup for the subliminal shots of the white-faced demon Pazuzu. So that's a dope movie as well. Yeah, Old Pazoos. Old Pazoos.
A boy, Pazuzu.
Yeah.
The bat in the cave there, Pazuzi.
All right, that's
Breaking
trivia, and I think that
Demon
wraps
wins.
up The Exorcist.
Again.
Movie 1 in the books.
Ooh.
All right, let's keep this ball rolling. We're talking about the Exorcism of Emily Rose, and we are once again kicking it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
Emily Rose from 2005 with a runtime of 1 hour and 59 minutes. This was, and I always forget this, directed by Scott Derrickson. It was co-written by Derrickson and also Paul Harris Boardman. Stars Laura Linney, Tom Wilkinson, Laura, thank you, Laura Linney. Jennifer Carpenter is in this. Campbell Scott, some other folks. Plot synopsis brought to you by IMDb is as follows. A lawyer takes on a negligent homicide case involving a priest who performed an exorcism on a young girl. Gentlemen, have we seen this movie before, and would we recommend people check it out? Randy, kick us off.
I have definitely seen this film before. You guys, I guess, saw it together for the first time. I did not. I watched it maybe at at your house, Bob, like after you guys had brought it, like had recommended it or something like that.
Sounds
I think
right.
we did watch it together when it was my first time watching it, though. Generally, I would lightly recommend this. I'll get into the reasons why, but this one, to me, out of all of the movies we're going to talk about this evening, was the one that didn't hold up the best for me. So it's a light recommend for me. I think that if I think there's some good performances. There's a lot of good in this movie, so you could do a lot worse in general. I just, like, if I'm putting them apples to apples against the others tonight, it's a lighter recommend for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Juice, what about you?
Yeah, so I hadn't seen this in a long time, and I remember watching it at the movie theater when we were supposed to be working. And at the time, it had more of kind of like a scare impact on me. Not so much this time, but where I would kind of recommend this one, of all three movies we're watching tonight, this one has the most of like that thriller vibe, or where somebody says, oh, it's more of a thriller than a horror movie.
You mean it feels like a Fincher movie?
Well, just
yes,
it's got actually a lot more drama in it than I remembered, which is interesting for a film about exorcism. So if you're watching it with, I think, like, if you're gonna try, we've had some emails before of like partners or something not being into horror films, and if you were in the process of like easing somebody into maybe getting into horror films, this might be a decent one because it's got more of a thriller kind of drama vibe, but it's like deeply rooted in exorcism, which is very horrific.
Yeah.
So
at its core, it is a courtroom drama.
Yeah.
That's what's interesting. It's an interesting way in,
which
I think makes it worth watching.
Sure. So I think it could work well for that. It is a little dated, but I think there's some good performances here, and there's definitely a lot worse. So yeah, general recommend. Bob?
Yeah, I've seen this movie several times before, and something else that I always forget about this movie is it's a PG-13 movie, which we oftentimes have every once in a while, like once a year, I feel like we talk about, what's good PG-13 horror if somebody's like a little bit younger, trying to look for some good stuff to watch.
Good call.
I always forget about this, so that's a good one.
That'd be a great top 5 list. I should make top 5 PG-13 horror movies.
PG-13.
Actually, that's not a bad one. Yeah.
I like this movie. It sounds like probably a little bit more than you guys. It does have a few things that feel a little bit dated, maybe a little bit hokey, looking back on it. But I think, considering the time this movie was made, I think it's really pretty fucking cool. I'm a fan of this movie,
Oh.
so I recommend it. Sounds like overall a medium recommend from the three of us. But we are going to get into the rest of the movie and spoil this. And here comes your warning.
Spoiler warning.
Okay, that's enough.
Randy is tired of the Crypt Keeper shit.
We got to keep the beat.
Keeping the
the
beat.
They've heard it
All
already.
right. I have a plot synopsis.
Thank God, Bob, because I'm done for the day. Check it
Yeah,
out.
you can
Autopilot.
just go run off and eat your creams and
It
whatnot.
was
What about those
good.
clowns in Congress? What a bunch of clowns.
Mhm. So full plot synopsis for Exorcism of Emily Rose. Here we go. Erin Bruner, an ambitious lawyer looking to make partner at her firm, takes a case defending Father Moore, who is being accused of negligent homicide after performing an exorcism on a 19-year-old college student by the name of Emily Rose. Throughout the trial, witness statements are shown via flashbacks. Prosecutor Ethan Thomas interrogates several doctors who claim Emily suffered from epilepsy and schizophrenia, concluding when Father Moore advised her to stop taking her medication, he was being negligent, and that directly resulted in her death. In some of the flashbacks, we see Emily waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning regularly. She hears spooky things. She smells something burning. She's also at one point held down by an unseen force. And we see her twisting and contorting her body in very unnatural ways. She ends up quitting college because of it. She moves back home where her condition fails to improve despite continuing her medication. Her family calls Father Moore, who performs an exorcism on Halloween, where we find out she is possessed by 6 demons, one of which is Lucifer. Father Moore eventually takes the stand to tell Emily's story, which was his primary concern. They play a tape of the exorcism where we hear Emily speak several different languages and seemingly hear multiple voices come out of her at the same time. Father Moore also reads a note Emily gave to him after the exorcism, explaining she was visited by Mother Mary one night, who gave her 2 choices. She could either leave her pain and suffering behind and go with Mary, or stay and continue suffering, but bring awareness of the spirit world to several people who wouldn't know it otherwise. Emily does choose to stay. And she stops taking her medication shortly thereafter. No other exorcisms were performed, and she soon passes away. Father Moore successfully told her tale and claims he thinks one day she will be considered a saint. Moore is ultimately found guilty, but the jury asked the judge to give a sentence of time served, to which she agrees, and Moore is free to go. Brenner declines the job offer at her firm, and she or Moore visit Emily's grave together in remembrance. Roll them credits.
Ooh.
Yeah.
All
There you
right.
So this one, I think this one does like some really interesting things for an Exorcist movie. As we said before, it's hard to kind of compete with The Exorcist, which at this point had already been established for 30 years when this movie came out. And so I kind of appreciate that they took some different directions with it. For instance, one of the first scenes we see of the demonic possession when she's at her school, and it has this like correlation with rape, essentially, because it's like lifting up her shirt or whatever, and she's not just struggling with like a demon on herself, but like it's got this kind of like sexual vibe to it. And the way what's this actress's name? She's in Dexter.
She is Jennifer Carpenter.
Oh
Yeah.
Jennifer Carpenter.
She kills it in this movie with the dread.
Yeah.
She does some of the best shrills and screams and
Yes,
like
she does.
absolute like terrified I've ever seen in a movie, and she sells every aspect of this like possession. And that scene like really caught me, because I also like the idea of they show the possession scene as you would see in a normal horror film, but then they also show it from the perspective of, because you're in the trial of, what if it wasn't a possession? What if she was having an epileptic like seizure or whatever? And I that's pretty cool Like, I like that kind of seed of doubt, or at least like presenting both sides and showing kind of like the superstitious nature of it, or like maybe lack thereof. And like, at what point do you believe the victim? Can you trust the victim and stuff like that? Is
Mhm.
pretty interesting take. I like
I
that.
agree. Like, I think that the way that like this movie succeeds because like, okay, I want to make a direct apples to apples with the Exorcist rather here,
Mhm.
because it does something similar in that it has very grounded everything
Mhm.
around the major story,
Mhm.
with the exception of a couple things that happen that are like supernatural adjacent, usually a late at night sort of things, like could be a dream sort of things, and then one witness who gets run over by a car.
Mhm.
Those are not supernatural, but they're like implied to be the result of supernatural stuff. It's supposed to, play into the supernatural side of things. But otherwise, that whole like lawyerness of it all, like all that stuff, it's all very much played straight, as
Yeah.
much as straight as it could be played. And I think that again, it's a level of like, okay, they brought in the grounding so that when Jennifer Carpenter does full scale freak out, it's easier to buy into it. Now, the problem for me is that the courtroom stuff, as much as I think it's an interesting way in, I think that it's kind of tough to take seriously on its own merits. The argument that the defense lawyer, Laura Linney, is making are kind of asinine and would absolutely get her client fucked over. And I
So
don't. Go ahead,
this
bud.
is based on a true story.
Right, and I was getting to that too. Go ahead.
And to what extent the movie pulls from reality and what they add, I don't really know where that line is drawn. Dude, I totally forgot Pazuzu was behind you, and when you moved out of the way, it freaked me out.
I got my boy behind me. Don't you look?
Oh,
fuck
fuck,
with me,
brand
dude.
new. Something's
No,
behind.
no, that's my
Dude,
boy.
get out of there, bro. Get out of there.
If you guys give me shit, I'm giving him permission to lay waste to you in your life.
But yeah, this it was based on a true story of Anneliese Michael, I think. She's a German girl, and she passed away in 1976. It's sort of loosely based on this true story about her. But I think just to sort of like counter your point there, Randy, I found the most of the stuff happening in the courtroom to be extremely interesting, and probably more so interesting than like the actual like possession and exorcism scenes, because it's after watching The Exorcist and like countless other exorcism movies, most of the stuff they do with that is a little bit like well trod territory. It feels maybe a little bit rote, where like the stuff that's happening in the courtroom and like hearing sort of both sides, like the science of it from the doctors, and then also they call in this like spiritualist, and then the priest gets up on the stand and like plays the tape and reads the letter, and just hearing like both sides of the argument I found to be like extremely interesting. And this, and the possession stuff sort of falls over into the defendant's lawyer's life as well. Like she starts experiencing these weird supernatural things and stuff too. I don't know. I found the courtroom stuff to be extremely interesting and engaging, and it could have very easily not have been, but it sounds like it wasn't for you. So
No. Like that's not the case. I did find it all interesting. Like I enjoyed those scenes more, and it was because they were so unique in the field of exorcism movies, and like I enjoyed seeing, like you said, like seeing the counterbalance. The problem is that like the people in the courtroom that I'm supposed to identify with, the person rather, is Laura Linney's character, and I identify with her fine. Like she plays it as straight as she can, and she presents it as like she does well from an acting perspective, but the things she's saying and the arguments she's making, they just sound fucking silly. And like even the character, even the movie thinks so, where they have the other lawyers say like, I object on the grounds of silliness, Your Honor. And it's like, yeah, kinda like that's not legally sound, but it is what we're all thinking. Like you brought a spiritualist in here to argue, like the most you could do is argue that they really believed they were doing the right thing, even as they basically got this girl killed. And I don't see a whole lot of courtrooms in the world. And as a matter of fact, like I don't see a whole lot of courtrooms entertaining this logic. And as a matter of fact, I went and watched, there's a YouTube personality called Legal Eagle. He's a lawyer who like reviews courtroom scenes in film. I recommend his YouTube channel. It's a little hokey seeming, but it's good information. and he gave it a B for realism, because they do things like, oh, they actually present their opening statement in a way that you actually would. It's not a moment for you to like rabble rouse and you hit the desk or anything like that. It's just you saying, this is what we're going to prove, and we're going to use these things to prove it, and things like that. But like when it gets to like, how about silliness, Your Honor? He's like, no, silliness is not something a lawyer is going to hear. And also like the idea that that they would sentence right away just because it was requested, or that they like little things like that, they kind of fall apart. But like the thing that bothers me is not those things so much as it is just, I'm supposed to take the spiritualist stuff seriously on the basis that at best the girl was killed by accident. And I'm like, that's a terrible defense, in my opinion, unless it's your only choice, which it clearly wasn't. I think it's bad defense, and it's hard to take it seriously from a courtroom perspective. It is interesting, though, from a storytelling perspective for an Exorcist film. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it is interesting the way it's presented. I will say I love the anthropologist. She kills her scene when she's describing it. She's just like fun to watch. She does a really good job, but I also like the idea of saying like, okay, even if you took Emily Rose to a hospital, okay, and she was there and the doctors were trying to treat her, but her condition just got worse and worse and worse and worse. No matter what anybody did, we're trying to treat her, we're giving her this medicine, we're putting her on fluids, whatever, and then she just continued to deteriorate and die. You wouldn't have this trial. You wouldn't be putting that doctor on trial. And saying like that they killed her or whatever. And so it's interesting to say like, it's interesting to try to pit science and religion in this. It makes me think of Mac, and Sonny. And science was a bitch.
Yeah. Because scientists are a bitch sometimes, or whatever he says. That is a great monologue. And actually Legal Eagle reviews that too. It's great.
So I just like that idea of like pitting these things against each other and be like, well, from a legal sense, if you're trying to, and the idea too that the prosecutor is this very religious man, like here facts matter and stuff like that, and that line that you have to toe in like regular life, and then as a society who's like, do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? You've got your hand on the fucking Bible, but you're not allowed to talk about demons possessing people. That's pretty interesting.
That is interesting. And like, I don't think they really go into that part of it, really, though. Do they talk about like,
well, she does.
I wish they had, because that would be fascinating.
So she brings it up in her opening statement. She says, like, I'm not technically a believer, but a lot of people are believers. And if you believe in God, then, the Bible says, these things. Wouldn't you have to believe that? Yeah. So, I mean, it's brought up. But yes. It's brought up. Yeah.
It is, but I kind of like, it's more interesting to hear you talk about that than it is to watch this movie talk about that.
Thank you.
To me, it's like silly, like, I don't know, even the anthropologist or whatever, the thing she's saying is like, this seems like something I could hear at a Scientology conference or at a
ancient aliens
spiritual. Exactly. Like, honestly, like the reason that you like that it's so silly in that setting is because courtrooms typically have to rely on things that are replicable, or like it has to rely on science because science is replicable. You hearing a voice at 3 a.m. is not replicable. Like, you don't have the ability to measure that. And so why would we depend on that, especially when human experience is so broadly fallible in its own ways? So like, I don't see any contradiction in them. Like, I see a contradiction in like putting their hand on the Bible and like the separation of church and state and all that stuff, but that's like a whole other issue that this movie is not really touching. It's really just about trying to convince people like, well, you can't prove God doesn't exist, so this guy's totally cool. It's so totally cool he told this girl to stop taking her medication. Like, no, it's not. Like, it's not. And like, well, if it was her choice, which it seems like they proved to some extent, I think leniency is regarded is defensible, and I think that time served is a relatively fair sentence based on like what we were presented with in this film, and I was happy with the way that they concluded it, where it was a bittersweet but ultimately fair judgment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
You're
I liked
guilty,
that.
but yeah, you're free to go.
But it seems like it was on the back of true belief, and clearly the family and her both were on board. Whether or not you guys were all fucking idiots is for someone else to decide. Right now, what's decided is it was negligent, but not to the point where you need to go to jail for 10 years. That makes sense to me.
Yeah, they had that one doctor take this stand, and he was saying like if he was her practitioner, he would have just like sedated her and like force fed her and continued giving her drugs like against her will. And like I guess I guess they could have gone that route. Maybe the parents just chose not to, and they're like, no, we're going to honor her wishes. And obviously she ended up passing away, but
over 18, I think. So
that's what I was gonna say. I was like, you know, if they sold her, she was 17 or 16 in high school. But yeah, she was an adult.
Yeah, I guess that is true.
So it's kind of a like the fact that the family agrees only really applies to sentencing, I think. But as far as like, yeah, that's an ethical question that is fair to ask, and I wish this movie was really more about that. I just don't think it really spends the time in that thinking to really claim fairly that that is what the movie's truly about. I think this movie is truly about well, you can't prove God doesn't. This feel like I was watching this with Becky, and we both agreed this felt like a very good Pure Flix film. Pure Flix horror film, where like, you know, where The Exorcist, like, it isn't ultimately a pro-Christian film, but you would never confuse it with a film that is trying to get you into church. This movie, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I mean, Scott Derrickson, the director, is definitely a believer. So I would understand that is probably what he was going for. And, you know, it's an interesting ass story to tell, you know, and like, and that's ultimately like we do sort of believe and side with the priest here, or at least you're supposed to, and like understanding that Emily was, you know, touched in a way where she was actually able to see the Virgin Mary and was sort of chosen because she was, I don't know, I guess able to contact the other side, or like, you know, was just sensitive. Like, yeah.
I will say, to be completely fair to this movie, I saw this in high school, and like I came up in the church. And I remember at the time, like, as opposed to me watching it this time now, of course, I've seen a ton more horror films now, much older and stuff like that. But at the time, I remember that having more of an impact on the fear aspect, because like the idea too of the Mother Mary coming and talking to her and like giving her the choice, and like, oh, you know, but if you stay, more people will get to know God. And those kind of things are like brought up at church. Not necessarily like, I never talked about like demon possession and stuff, like, but the idea of like, because you're closer to God, the devil wants to punish you in order to mock God and show that like how you're turning away from God. See, they don't actually love you, God. Like, they're turning away from you, and like being put to those tests as like this mocking of God and stuff like that. It's like, that's more scary when you think of it as a plausibility, or not necessarily like possession, but when you consider the devil like a real thing, and like, God, I hope I don't end up like old Job, where the devil really wants to prove, you know, teach God a lesson. It's like, and even in this, you know, Emily, you can come with me, or you could stay and really suffer, but it'll make God happy. It's like, damn, that's kind of scary.
Yeah.
You know, so great. It did affect me more when I was more in that like headspace, and much younger, of course. So this also,
I was saying, would you piece out, be like, yeah, let's roll, Mary, let's get out of here?
Probably.
Well, here's the thing, like all of that stuff is like this is the interesting stuff in the movie, but like nuts and bolts of the movie, let's talk about like craft, because I think, like, we agree that Jennifer Carpenter does a great job in this. I think that the courtroom scenes are grounded appropriately, and like more so than they needed to be, or more so than a lot of movies would allow it to be. I give it credit for that. But as far as like the generally the performance, the writing of each scene, it's a little bit, at least the stuff outside the courtroom feels very like by numbers to me.
Yeah,
I agree with that. Yeah,
I would say the weakest part is the time spent with the lawyer in the spooky kind of settings. Like I found her like finding a locket being very dumb, and him saying like that's important. It's like why would it's not even a cross or anything. It's like I don't know. That was kind of dumb. Actually, it's a sneaky Halloween movie though. I thought that was pretty cool.
Is it?
Yeah,
Oh
because
yeah, yes, it
he
is.
does the exorcism on Halloween. It's like, oh yeah, the witching hour and stuff.
When
Like I
the
thought that was
veil
pretty
is
cool.
the thinnest. I hate
Yeah.
that
Barn
phrase.
party,
That's
you know?
such a trope now.
And there's like some good autumn vibes too. When she's at the school and they're like walking around, like the leaves are orange and stuff. It's got some cool autumn vibes. But yeah, I would say just the lawyer aspects on her own were the weakest. I liked the priest sold it pretty well. I thought this priest
did
sold
all right.
it pretty well.
I don't know. The thing is, like, nothing outside the courtroom, with the exception of Emily Rose's, like, the performance there, like the actual like heavy duty screaming, the 1 2 3 4 5 6, all that shit. None of that, like, nothing outside of those things stand out from this movie to me.
Oh, really?
Like, nothing. Yeah, like really, like I like the courtroom scenes for the stuff we talked about. I like that part, like the heavy, like the pinnacle of the possession.
Yeah.
And I like generally the idea of like, okay, so in a religious sense, she is chosen, like what you just described. But like, I don't know, like the stuff in the house, like the lead up to her, but like the stuff in her in the dorm and all that stuff.
Even when she's all contorted and twisted around.
That's what I was
like
gonna
the
say.
Closest
that's the
thing to interesting to me, and even that to me, like, kind of, I don't know if it's because time has not been kind to that trope for me. I feel like I've seen that a bunch since, so maybe it's a matter of time on that. But it just didn't hit me this time. I was just like, okay, yep. Like it just felt like a lot of this felt like it just washed over me in a way that I don't normally like. It really is elevated by its other parts that we've already talked about.
Yeah.
The music was a little heavy-handed to me at times.
A little bit. That felt like early 2000s,
Right.
like audio styles. Yeah, I agree.
And speaking of that, also, like, this is actually a positive for this film. Like, not the music, but like in terms of like its era. Just out of curiosity, I looked up the 2005 horror movies just to see what it was competing with, and it's got a few good ones in here. Like The Descent is in here, which is a great one, and that's it. There's a bunch of movies that are questionable to bad, like Land of the Dead or The Ring 2, or Skeleton Key or Saw 2 or Hostel.
I like Skeleton Key.
House of Wax.
Rough year.
So I haven't seen it, but it's not one that I know to have a great reputation.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it does or doesn't.
That's all 2005. Is that what you're saying?
2005. Yeah, these are all 2005 films.
That was a rough
year. It was not in a crowded field. I think it definitely stands out among those.
Yeah, for sure.
For carrying the torch that others were dropping.
For sure. Yeah. The two things, going back to your thing of like what stands out of this movie from like the horror aspect, the one I always remember her laying on the ground, because that kind of had an impact on me. Like, what if you woke up one day and somebody was like that? So I always thought that
would not be okay.
Not chill at all. So that one specifically, I did remember like the church scene, but actually that one held up less than I remembered it in my mind. But when they showed it this time, I was like, that when she's like reaching out and her body bends backwards, she's trying to touch
I don't even
cross.
really. Yeah, I now that you say that, remember that. So that's not a good sign for me.
It didn't hold up as well this time, but I always remember too the 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6.
Yeah,
and like again, her screeching like sex or whatever she said, like oh my god, she kills it so much. She does so good.
They do. Yeah, she does. And like this is her hate. Like I don't know what she's doing these days, but like after Dexter, I expected to see more of her, and I hope that she gets back to the horror genre some more, because she's got a fucking great set of pipes for screaming.
Yeah,
she got chops. They made some like prosthetics for when she was going to be all twisted like a pretzel to like use, and then like she got on set and just started like contorting her body, and they're like, "Fuck, we don't even need these. Just like let her
Damn.
do her thing."
Oh my god.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Good for
So
her.
she's super flexible apparently,
Like,
and
that's
can
one thing
scream
that's
like a mother.
That's a standard for actually every one of these movies tonight. All of the possessed people do a fucking great job.
Yeah. Yeah, they
Yeah,
really
that's
do.
true.
And they're also, I was thinking, I made a little note about this, and I was like, is there any movie? I haven't seen it, so maybe the Amityville Horror, but is there? They're all young possessed women,
girls usually.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't.
Any boys that are ever young boys that are
I'm
possessed?
Sure there are, but it's like extremely rare, right? It's got.
Yeah.
I can't think of them.
I thought of
Nothing comes to mind.
Insidious. He's not really possessed though, so that's a difference.
Movies with possessed.
But I just, as I was watching this, I was like, oh, it's always like because especially too, because they especially like in the first Exorcist, but they're talking about like, you know, kind of the degradation or like the corruption of purity and stuff like that, and it's always just these young women, which is like weird. And this one specifically got, well, no, I shouldn't say that. I was like, they got specifically sexual in this one, but then I was thinking back to the Exorcist. I was like, nope, that's very sexual.
Yeah,
not that explicit.
Nope.
Come
to daddy. So yeah, I don't. That was just an interesting note that I made.
Yeah, I'm like on a real quick, as we're talking, Google search. I'm not seeing any film that really matches the description of being an exorcism film with a man or a boy.
I mean, you've got stuff like The Omen, where you know, there is a boy focus, but that's not.
But he
the
is
yeah,
the devil.
He is
He's
the
not
devil.
possessed by the devil.
Yeah.
The first Insidious movie is like about a boy like almost getting possessed.
That's what I was kind of saying.
Yes.
And his
Left
father
his
is possessed. Yeah, but he's
Good-
not
good call.
possessed. But
No.
they
he's a
want to
husk that can
possess
be a
his
vessel.
body. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's fair. And then I guess as time goes on in that series, there are a few male possessed people. But
Yeah, because then no spoilers. I guess,
Yeah.
but
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Took till 2009 to get some representation up in here.
Right. Represent.
Where are all the
boys,
guys
please.
in movies?
Yeah.
Oh,
the
man.
fucked up little boys.
Let's not talk about little boys.
Yeah. Any other points y'all want to hit on before we rate this thing?
I just had one more note. I was gonna read my thing, but I thought if y'all wanted to like comment or it might be decent. But it really goes back to my one of my points. But I put it in this kind of way. I was like, I wrote a note, people who live by the water have more reason to be afraid and affected by Jaws, the film. You cannot live by the water and go see Jaws and find it to be a scary movie. But then if the next day you're going to go surfing, you know, and then you're actually in the water, that's going to resonate with you more, I feel like. And so I was like, this is interesting, not just this film, but it's when I kind of had this like revelation or whatever of the fear, you know, this kind of fear for religious people, and how I was saying before, how it kind of affected me more when I was in that headspace. If you're constantly thinking about Satan or demons, or every day or every Sunday you're going to church and they're talking about you have to be, you know, on the lookout for Satan or whatever, it's like, then that does play more into your fears if you feel you're more susceptible to to the monster.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean,
whatever.
like relatability to the concept absolutely counts for something.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. I'm worried about Jaws just showing up in my room and eating my ass.
Land shark.
Randy,
Dude, I legitimately,
Randy
when
had
I was
that
a kid,
dream. You told us.
I legitimately had that. Like, I was afraid to turn on the light in my bedroom at night because I was afraid as soon as I did, a head would roll out of a log in front of me.
I know your childhood dreams, Randy.
I know that, man. It makes me wonder what your deal is.
Randy's our possessed, fucked up little boy that we've always been looking for.
Oh my God.
It is not in the file.
In the file. Let's go ahead and rate this thing out of 5. Randu, why don't you kick us off? How do you feel about the Exorcism of Emily Rose?
Yeah, sure. I like this is one, and like again, I have a hard time not comparing them to the other ones that we watched this week for obvious reasons because they're all very fresh.
Yeah.
Except for the Exorcist one. But I feel like this is a good movie for its time and place. I think it's a unique spin on the subgenre of exorcism films. I think it's a little heavy on pro-Christianity stuff, where it could have, like, I think it definitely plays to both sides, and I think that it's stronger for it. But I think that, like, Juice, some of the things you were bringing up as sort of like subtleties, I would have been more interested in them being explored more fully. But I also understand why they weren't. This is a PG-13 horror movie. It's meant for a certain audience, and the fact that they played it as straight as they did is, it's pretty commendable. And I think that really probably my biggest ding for this movie is just that it feels like its place in time in its scariest moments, and its intended scariest moments. It just feels very much like it fits closely with some of those other movies I mentioned, which are a little on the, I don't know, the so-so side. It was not a crowded field at the time, and it really, like, it just kind of feels its age, which The Exorcist does, but also doesn't. In my, like, so, and I think, I don't know. I think more than the other two films, this one feels like it is a product of its time, and I don't think that it is as successful at bringing new or bringing interesting thoughts to this whole thing. I think it does what it can, but it's not perfect. Anyway, I'm repeating myself. This is gonna be, and I'm hemming and hawing, and I'm stretching time. I think I'm gonna give it a 3. This is not a movie that I'm psyched to watch again and again and again. It has some great stuff about it. Don't have a lot of, like, pointed complaints, but the ones I have are, like, they're just kind of souring for me. Like I said, like, this feels kind of like it's a little too preachy for my tastes, and that, for me personally, having also been raised in the church and having certain, thoughts about that stuff, it just doesn't invite a rewatch over and over for me. So for all of its strengths, I think that some of those strengths are misses for me personally.
Right on. 3 from Randy. Juice, what about you?
I like this a little more than Randy, but I agree with a lot of it. I feel like its worst components are affected from, or like come from, its age. I think it has aged and not in the best ways. But I think, the acting is fantastic. She does an amazing job. Like, I was so impressed. But even, like, with the datedness, some of the things, again, she's a 26-year-old woman playing an 18-year-old girl. So part of the moments of where she's, like, supposed to be acting like more innocent or more naive and something didn't necessarily come off. We've gotten away from that kind of stuff where younger people are playing more closer to their age, and they should, like, so it's just things like that are just kind of dated now, stuck out to me a little bit more. I like the autumn vibes. I like that it was sneaky Halloween. I like the kind of, like, ideas of 3 a.m., the demonic witching hour, the inverse of the 3 p.m. when Jesus died, and stuff like that. Locket was dumb. I love the anthropologist scene. I found the arguments interesting, but I can also understand Randy's idea of, like, if you take it in a realistic, like, grounded, it's interesting to listen to, but if you think about it in the realm of courtroom, it does seem kind of silly. Yeah. One thing that was, like, kind of interesting too, we talk about thrillers and stuff like that, and I usually think about thrillers as having, I think about it as like a horror comedy, like Shaun of the Dead, where it's it's comedy through and through, but it's got the, like, setting of the horror, horror dressing. And normally thrillers, I feel like, have this kind of, like, splash of, like, 20 to 30% horror or surrounded by this drama. And while, like, most of the scenes take place in a courtroom here, I feel like this is more the other way, where it's about an exorcism and you get a full exorcism scenes. And then there's also this, like, very dramatic thing going on, this courtroom that's very, like, straight-laced, kind of straightforward kind of stuff. So that was interesting to me, where it felt more in the horror realm, but, like, very much still like a drama thriller type. So that's kind of cool. Overall, I think I'm going to give this movie a 3.5. Robert, out of 5, where are you putting Emily Rose?
Hello. Yeah, I think I like this movie probably best of all of us. It some of like the CGI stuff does not hold up. Like whenever she is walking around campus and looking at people and their like eyes are like they turn black and like run, it looks kind of like a little goofy.
They do the
So
ring closet thing, like
Yeah.
yeah. Some of that stuff doesn't really work out. But I think the performances here are solid. Specifically, Carpenter, she absolutely crushes it. She could be a hell of a screen queen if she wanted to be. I really dig the courtroom discussions and the debate that's happening here. I find it just like really interesting on both sides. Just hearing the arguments. The Exorcism proper is like hitting the beats. It's doing what it knows it has to do. It's definitely not reinventing the wheel in any way, but it's interesting enough and it's scary enough. And she delivers a performance that's like convincing enough that I'm along for the ride with it. Like, yeah, okay, this is the Exorcism. This is now what's happening. We got it. And I think they probably stretched it as far as they could within that PG-13, line. You can't go cramming crucifixes into orifices or anything if it's PG-13.
What?
You just can't get away with it.
Wow.
It's I think it holds up pretty damn well though, especially considering like early 2000s horror movies. This is one that I've seen a few times and I'll probably watch it again. I'm going to come in with a 4 out of 5 for the Exorcism of Emily Rose. And that's going to put our aggregate at a 3.5. I get to run the tomatoes segment. Let's jump over to
run the tomatoes.
Running the maters. Let's get into a Rotten Tomatoes segment.
Here we go.
Certified.
That's enough. Go ahead.
Randy, all right. So let's start with the critics first. Of course, there's 157 critics reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. Juice, let's start with you. What do you think the critics are sitting at?
I think they'll probably be pretty positive to this, but it'll be capped. So, I'll do 75.
All right, 75 for Juice. Randy, what about you?
I was hovering in that zone too. I think I'm gonna go just a little bit lower. I'm gonna say 70.
All right. Randy,
you know what? Fuck that. I'm doing 69 dudes.
69 dudes.
Randy chose correctly.
Oh shit!
69 dudes.
We got a winner.
It is 44%.
Oh
Yeah.
no!
Shockingly low, I think.
Oh, wow.
Shockingly low.
Wow.
Yeah, that's lower than I thought, obviously, but I'm not that shocked either.
Damn, I'm pretty shocked. That's pretty low.
Yeah.
That's low,
Yeah,
but it's also a horror exorcism film from 2005 when horror's stock was rock fucking bottom.
Sure.
It is rotten. In the other movies, it suggests like you might also like are like pretty fucking bad actually. So,
Well, you'd probably like Ginger Dead Man.
they're all sitting at between 49 and 7%.
Oh,
The
no.
other suggested
You'd probably
movies.
like some shitty movies.
some bullshit like Firewall. The critics consensus for this is loosely based on a true story. The Exorcism of Emily Rose mixes compelling courtroom drama with generally gore-free scares and a ho-hum take on demonic cinema.
Ho hum.
Oh, hum.
Ho hum. Ho hum.
Let's do the audience score. There's over 250,000 ratings, so a pile of them. Randy, why don't you kick us off? What do you think?
I think they're going to be more kind to this film. I think this movie doesn't have a bad reputation amongst horror fans, and I don't see many. I just don't imagine there being much more than horror fans on this particular one, and I'm not sure why. So I'm going to wager at 75.
75. Juice, what about you?
I'm gonna go lower and say 60.
Juice, going with the 60. We do indeed have a ringy ding.
Oh shit!
Uh-oh.
You know who's ringing the ding?
Who's ringing the ding?
That's gonna be your boy, Juice.
Whoa,
Oh.
right there. Yeet. Ready? How's it
God
feel to get a hell
damn.
Who are
yeet?
you calling a cootie queen, you lint liquor?
You're
You
a
just
late
got hell
licker.
yeeted.
You know that. That's my PG-13 complaint about your winning.
Doesn't taste so good on the other side, does it, Randy?
Oh,
it tastes like
Randy,
lint.
You're a loser. How does it feel to lose?
You
Oh
Randy?
my
cooter
god!
queen.
My
Oh.
pride!
Oh,
My
hi.
pride!
Oh, you're just a loser. Oh, yeah.
Oh god!
Oh, she's a fancy dodger.
Really shrinks your dick, doesn't it, Randy?
Oh my!
You got
It's
a
the
loser
opposite of
dick.
boner pills.
I lost rotten maters. Oh, no.
Oh god! This is illegal in some states now. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I got, I'll read one of these negative little reviews because that's what Rennie does. Negative review says, the script is a lifeless succession of moral debates and stormy horror flashbacks, though I had a good time watching Jennifer Carpenter.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's pretty fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's about where I live.
This is a positive one, but I just thought it was funny. It says, a classy, quote, boo movie for those who like their horror polite.
What?
I like my horror polite.
Excuse me, Satan. Could you
Can
please
you
clean up your
class this
potty
up?
and mouth?
Can you remove the crucifix from the vagina, please, Satan?
Come on.
You know, I'm all for a scary movie about the devil inhabiting a young girl, but leave the sex and vulgarities out of it, please.
Let's be civilized, Satan.
Holy.
We're fine.
I mean, it's only like 6 men in that woman, you know? I mean, what do they expect?
There's only 6 men in that one. Wow, what a bump that is.
What is she crying about?
Okay.
Well, that's the end of
Yeah.
that segment.
Yeah.
God damn.
The logical
I do-
conclusion ain't so pretty, is it?
I do have a little bit of trivia on this one, so let's go ahead and get into that.
All right, here we go.
It's totally time for trivia.
All right. So I already said the character of Emily Rose was loosely inspired by Anneliese Michel. There's a German director by the name of Hans Christian Schmidt. Apparently, he made a film based on the same story that came out in late 2006, and that is titled Requiem. So I have not seen that. I don't know if you guys have heard of that or know about that, but there's another one out
Don't. John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt's out there working on it.
there. You nailed it. So yeah, Anneliese, she was a German woman who underwent 67 Catholic exorcisms.
Oh my
67.
God. It might not be working.
And
The last one was just to make sure it wasn't the double sixes.
those
It's
were
just a formality, really.
all done in 1 year before her death, leading up to her death.
God,
She died of malnutrition, for which her parents and priests were convicted of negligent homicide.
That's
She was she was diagnosed with epileptic psychosis and had a history of psychiatric treatment that proved ineffective, apparently.
See, this is why the courtroom scenes kind of like don't fully work for me, because they're trying to ground it with a situation that demands you take silly things very seriously.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know.
But I mean, it also is like, I mean, it's curious to say like, oh, she had a history of psychiatric treatment with like to no avail. It's like,
sure.
It's interesting to go back again to The Exorcist and say like, even if you have the means, like, and you get to this point of hopelessness, you know, now at that point, 60, I mean, okay.
Right.
So
Try one, try two.
Yeah. I would say
maybe
that it's
try
at least as
3.
unsuccessful as the other things.
Yeah,
that you failed at.
exactly.
So
there are some differences. I've got a little bit more information regarding the actual case. So the accused were found guilty of manslaughter via negligence. There were 2 clergymen that were sentenced to 6 months in jail, which was later suspended, and they got 3 years of probation. The most significant differences are that the girl periodically fasted for several months, apparently, as part of her exorcism. But she did remain taking medication all the way up until she died. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess like they never told her to stop taking medication, or if they did, she kept taking it. So she was
I mean,
always taking
medication is also broad. We don't know what. Like,
True.
I don't know.
Yeah, Advil. What was she? Yeah.
I feel like that's gonna have to be a whole like
Eat these
research project to figure out if that holds water.
The
or not.
devil hates tripping balls.
Eat this
So,
bread. It's the body of Christ.
Yeah. I told her it's the body of Christ.
To prepare for her role, Jennifer Carpenter spent hours in a room full of mirrors. She tried out different body positions and facial expressions to see which were the scariest. I think that fucking paid off for sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
The last bit of trivia I have is the jury, the people that played the jurors, were not given scripts, so they weren't aware of how the case would turn out. Mary Beth Hurt asked them how they would find Father Moore at the end, and the decision ended up being split.
Interesting.
Okay.
I was definitely on the guilty side. I was like, this isn't really working for me. I think it's definitely a guilty verdict.
I don't.
But I was pleased with the sentencing.
They would have to spell the law out for me, because I would be like,
same.
she's an adult,
and they would.
If she said, "I don't want to take this medicine and I'm gonna rot here in this bed," I mean, like.
But if she's not of sound mind, that's a whole other issue. So
yeah.
I don't know that. Yeah, it's not an easy. I don't think it's like a cut and dry case either way. But like,
I would have to. Yeah, they would have to spell the law for me exactly.
60,
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
you're not a
lawman,
Juice. You're not a law.
I mean, I practice bird law from time to time.
Speak English, Doc. We ain't scientists.
I dabble here and there, boilerplate and all that.
Boilerplate.
That's gonna do it.
One more time.
Film, The Exorcism of Emily Rose. We're gonna keep this train rolling.
Hang on, time for cream. Keep it going.
Oh, okay.
God.
All right. We'll keep
it
going.
going.
Ice cream.
But hold
He's just leaving to eat ice cream. That's what's happening.
Yeah.
Oh boy, the moment you've
Justin's going to
Justin's
getting all 31 flavors off the record entirely.
Wow. Thanks, buddy. So we're kicking off our third and final film, which is of course The Last Exorcism. Let's kick it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
All right, Last Exorcism from 2010. This is another PG-13 horror movie with a runtime of an hour and 27 minutes. This was directed by Daniel Stamm, written by Huck Botko and Andrew Gerlard. Stars Patrick Fabian, Ashley Bell, Iris Barr, Louis Hertham. Caleb Landry Jones is also in this one. That dude is freaky deaky, man.
2013?
No, 2010.
Okay, I don't know why I heard 2010. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
With plot synopsis brought to you by IMDb is as follows: a troubled evangelical minister agrees to let his last exorcism be filmed by a documentary crew. Gentlemen, had you seen this movie before, and would you recommend people check it out? Juice, why don't you kick us off?
I had not seen this before. Like I said, I kind of picked it because I had heard Randy talk about it a couple times, talk kind of highly of it, and I was curious. Didn't realize it was found footage. I dig on found footage, especially found footage done well. And so in this way, it was kind of like a blind spot, hidden gem for me. I liked it. I would say hidden gem in the realm of found footage specifically, not necessarily like exorcism films, but in found footage films. I thought it was pretty good. And so yeah, I would generally recommend people check it out, especially if you're looking for some kind of good found footage horror. On the Exorcist side, it's pretty solid as well on that end too, but more so strong in the found footage realm. Bob, had you seen this before? Would you recommend?
Yeah, this was my second watch, and I think the first time I watched it was because Randy was singing its praises. I dig it. It's pretty much what you said. It's a solid mixture of found footage and exorcism. I think it's interesting. All three of these movies we're covering sort of tackle the Exorcist the Exorcism film in a very different, unique way. So we get a nice little like swath here that we're talking about. But yeah, I recommend checking it out. It's a solid watch for sure. Randu, what about you?
I mean, you guys kind of laid it out already. I'm a fan of this film, and I've been kind of like low key singing its praises for a while. I think for me, like this is I'm a sucker, as I've mentioned before. I'm a sucker for the found footage genre in terms of like a level of immersion that it provides you. It really works for me. And this one isn't perfect in that regard, but it is pretty good in that regard. And I think that for my money anyway, it's as good of an exorcism movie as it is a found footage movie. Well, I mean, it's a little bit more of a crowded field for exorcism movies because it's got like all-time classic The Exorcist to compete with, and it's never going to touch that. But I think this has an interesting spins on it narratively that we can definitely get into. So yeah, I recommend this movie if you like found footage, if you like exorcism movies. You should definitely be watching this film. If you like Better Call Saul, this fucking actor, Patrick Fabian, is the lead in this, and he's also a primary character in Better Call Saul. He's great in both of those things from what I've seen. But to me, this is his definitive performance. This is how I recognize him. So
cool. Sounds like a pretty solid recommendation across the board from the Straight Chilling crew. We're going to spoil this movie as well, and here comes your warning.
Spoiler warning.
Okay, that's enough.
If you're watching behind the scenes, you're getting some screaming and creaming right here.
Yeah, there's.
Well,
it's so hot. Oh my god.
This is cherry pistachio. I've been on a huge pistache kick these days.
Pistache is great.
Bubble teas, this cream, picked it up from the old Peony Jam. It's delish. It's delicious.
Pistache
pistache.
The old pistache.
Ass grass or pistache.
One of them.
I love it.
Pay your way.
Man's got to have a code.
That's grass or pistache.
All right, here's your synopsis for this film.
Thank you.
Reverend Cotton Mather, a Southern Baptist preacher leading a church with his aging father, is a Southern Baptist church preacher leading a church with his aging father. He's a prodigious showman at the pulpit, but has grown disillusioned with the literal business of being a successful faith leader. In particular, he sees the many exorcisms he has performed as a dangerous act. He hires a film crew to document his, quote, last exorcism, revealing all his tricks to the cameras. He follows a request to a remote rural town and meets Louis Sweetser, his threatening son Caleb, and his daughter, the possessed Nell. They interview the family and their estranged local preacher, Pastor Manley, about the situation. Then, using several sleight-of-hand tricks and showmanship, Cotton performs the exorcism to the family's satisfaction, and even Caleb seems pleased. Later, Nell appears semi-catatonic in Cotton's motel room in the night. Louis refuses medical intervention for her, and they wind up back at the Sweetser farm. A call from the hospital reveals that Nell is pregnant. Louis then threatens to shoot his daughter unless Cotton performs another exorcism, and he ultimately agrees. After some violence from Nell, they perform another exorcism, culminating in yet Nell using a sexual term incorrectly. Cotton surmises that this is proof that she is not possessed, but instead having a mental crisis due to the shame of having sex with a local boy. Cotton calls their local preacher, and leaves the family in their care, seemingly resolving the issue. But on their way out of town, however, they meet the supposed father of the boy, who reveals he is gay and has never had sex with Nell. They return to the farm, where they find Nell giving birth in an outdoor ritual led by Pastor Manley. Cotton walks courageously towards the demon that is the result of this birth, and with his crucifix and some prayer, as the film crew is murdered by the cultists, including Nell's brother Caleb. And that's how this thing ends.
Nice.
So
that's why you never go to Baton Rouge, boys.
Yeah, for real.
Never go deep in the Rouge.
I believe that.
So yeah, this is like our actually this and Emily Rose are our poor rural families with possessions situation, but this one in particular, it's kind of like a plot point because they're like largely they're positioned as rubes throughout the movie. And then at the end, you see that most of what they said, even though they weren't perfectly right, they were correct about many things. And they're proven not to be quite the rubes you think they are. Now, this has a controversial ending that I've kind of flip-flopped on whether or not I like this ending as it is. What did you guys think about it?
Feels kind of loosey goosey to me.
Yeah.
Not airtight. I think it's ultimately satisfying, but if you think on it too long, it sort of like pulls some of the more satisfying things away from the movie. Like they do a couple like fake outs, I guess. They like twisty and turny here and there. So like we are convinced that she's not possessed, and then we eventually think, okay, she really is. There's something terribly wrong here, and then we find out that she's pregnant. They do another exorcism or whatever, and then you're like, oh, okay, well, she says like blowing jobs, I think, instead of blow jobs. So he's like, oh no, she's just like a terrified young girl or whatever, and she's acting out because she had sex with this dude. So you're like, okay, she's not possessed. And then it turns out, well, no, she actually is possessed. She's giving birth to the devil's child. And then we see a literal like, demon in the flames. You're like, oh my God, all this shit is real. So like, I think it might have actually been more interesting if the demon like birth didn't happen and like she really was just battling with like some inner emotional like family kind of shit. I think that would have been a little bit more, but probably not as flashy, right? Like you don't have the big cool demon in the fire, but
exactly.
Yeah, I don't know how to think. I don't know how to think about it either. I've gone back and forth about it because I was thinking about like how do you end this movie in an interesting kind of way. I thought about a couple things, but I don't know if any of them are necessarily better. One kind of twist that I liked was the brother Caleb being in on it, and that's why he actually didn't want an exorcist to come, because he thought the exorcist was legit, and that's why he was so pleased when he found out he was a fake and was all about him doing it, and like, okay, be on your way. That was a cool twist. The actual demon, I feel like they could have just done it exactly the same, but without a demon. Like her giving birth on an altar and then be like, oh, it's the preacher. And you being able to put those pieces together and then be like, is that the film
about
crew
to throw
there?
the baby
right.
in the
And
file,
then they just get or even just not even, like they're watching the birth being done and then like, oh, get him. And then they just get him. I think that would be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's actually, I mean, this is kind of like the debate that I've seen about this movie, and I don't know. For my money, I used to be like, I just kind of liked the movie as it was. I didn't really think too hard about it, but like I'm more and more coming around to what you guys are describing as like, I think this movie, like Rob said, could be done just with like where they just travel off, leaving the girl like this. All of a sudden, it becomes like a film that is just purely and simply about religion and shame and what's a word like isolation of young people or of people in general. And I think that is a very, very fucking interesting thing to talk about. But like Rob said, also, like it's not as flashy, or it's not the satisfying, entertaining ending that you kind of want, which is what the other side of things brings to the table. And I think, Justin, you could be onto something where like, yeah, maybe if they just like had a regular baby come out of her or something, or if they were just doing some crazy ritual and then killed them because they happened upon their crazy ritual after all of that. Like maybe that, like the fact that we see a demon and like prophecies come true and all that stuff, maybe it's a bridge too far. If they had left it a little more ambiguous at all, I think that this movie would have a lot more to say about those things that it seems to be saying a lot about. So like I'm kind of like I've come full circle to where like I was a defender of this movie against this way of thinking, because I really was like, no, it's just a cool ending. Like, yeah, like it's another one of those like in The Exorcist, a man of faith loses his faith and then has to come into contact with the real deal, the most shocking real deal possible, and that's what brings his faith back. That's still the case. That is the case with this story right now. But The Exorcist already did that shit great. I kind of love the idea more and more that it's really about a young girl's shame and a psychic break, period. So that's kind of my big ding for this movie that I didn't always have for it. But that said, like one ding that I will also give to it, one complaint I will make about this movie, that I really like this movie, but I like this movie. I like found footage for its immersive qualities, immersive properties, and this movie's okay at that. It's pretty good at that. But it does a lot more musical cues than I want, and it's distracting to me. I would love it if they had been more committed to Foley effects or whatever, filling that sound space out rather than depending on like these little dark, ominous tone beats or whatever that are like, you know, if you're not looking for them, if this isn't your 12th time seeing it like me, you may never like clock it. But I was noticing in a few spots, I was like, this has got like, you know, built-in music. There's make it like some music that's like on a stereo that those ghosties turned on or whatever, like whatever. Anything else is kind of better.
I made that same note. I put when the gun goes off and they are carrying her, there's music, which doesn't make sense. I was like, wait a second, wait. And they continue that. Like that was the first time I noticed it. So when things are really getting dramatic, but I noticed it a couple more times. I was like, no, if you're gonna go with the found footage, you can't do that. You can't do that.
Well, that's the thing is like, especially around this time when found footage was like hot shit, but also like very like I don't think it had really been fully crystallized as like these are the rules of found footage. People were just kind of doing it. So I think that like that was pretty common, and I think you'll see that in a lot of found footage from this time. But I just like it cheapens things for me. And that's the big complaint I'll make. That said, I think that fucking both Ashley Bell, who plays Nell, and Patrick Fabian, who plays Cotton, are fucking incredible in this movie. Like the huckster like turned good thing that Cotton is like in this, I love it. It's so charming. It's like I love this guy. He's like, you know, exposing something that's harmful, and he's like, you know, he's making a very difficult decision in his life to walk away from the one thing that's always defined him, and he's doing it because of care for other people. Like that, like you said, like that sounds like doing God's work to me. So like I really love him as a character, and I find him very compelling. And then Ashley Bell just sells the shit out of the possession. I don't know if you.
I love when Cotton is like sort of breaking down his family history at the very beginning, and we keep flashing back to him preaching a sermon, and he's talking to the camera crew, and he's like, you know what, I can say damn near anything. I'll preach a banana bread sermon, and he bets him $10 that he can do it, and he does, and he gets an amen. Everybody starts praising, and I was like, fuck, that is really,
it's legitimate,
like, hilarious, and like kind of true. Like you can.
Yeah,
that's like one of those sermons. Like that's a pinnacle moment. That's a standout moment for this movie for sure. And like honestly, one of the truest representations of some churches I've been to in my life that you
yeah.
And I like that idea too. It's set, and we have another cool premise set up of him doing that thing where he's, you know, I've seen some documentaries of exposing the church or exposing these things, and the idea that he's like exposing himself. I thought it was interesting. I was
Please, there are ladies present. Sorry.
The only thing I wasn't sure about is I was like, I feel like I need a little bit more catalyst to make this believable, because I was like, this is this guy's living. And if maybe they promised him a lot of money, you know, and so then to maybe I was like, why is he just going to throw himself under the bus? Like his dad's been doing it, but he doesn't seem to have any problem with his dad. There wasn't any kind of catalyst that made me believe like, yeah, this man is just about to throw his entire life away.
Really? Because I thought it was really well sold, because it's all about the birth of his son, which is like a life-changing event. His son,
that's
struggling to survive. He doesn't have health insurance, and he like depends. And he talks about basically the Emily Rose case, like that real case where it's like, oh, I read this article. He read this article about an exorcism that went bad, and a girl with epilepsy or a person with epilepsy like died horribly, and he was really shaken by that. And then he describes having nightmares of him like killing his son in an exorcism. And it's like, to me, that's more than enough. I felt really like great, like he's turning his back on his dad or whatever, and maybe they don't flesh out like what that means for him and his family as much as they could have, but it's also not like that pertinent to what I think the rest of the story is. So as much as I would be okay seeing more of that, I'm okay with like his motivations as they are.
I did kind of
Yeah.
forget about that a little bit. But I went
Yeah.
I took a bunch of notes
satisfied.
at the beginning where I was like, I kept going back and forth on the performance where I was like, man, this is overly cheesy. I was like, I know what this character
Right.
is supposed to be. So I'm being like kind of forgiving and understanding.
Yeah.
But then there were times where that would kind of pop back up, even in the dramatic moments of the exorcism and stuff like that, where
Mhm.
I was like, I'm kind of trying to get even the whole idea of him like rushing out into the demon. I was like, sometimes this guy seems like he's got his shit together or he knows where he's at from a mental standpoint. And then sometimes that kind of crumbles apart. And I don't know.
At
He
the
does.
end is the time for that to crumble apart, though, if it's gonna crumble.
Yeah,
But
I guess
know
just
what
him
you're
being
saying,
like,
though.
let's go get the demon. And then there were a couple moments of like lapse in judgment of what we saw from the characters. Like this, I like the idea of this cameraman being like, guys, we need to like get the fuck
Yeah.
out of here. And I was like, okay, you know, if you're stuck in that one moment where you're like, oh, is this girl gonna get killed or whatever? But when they stay the night over one more time, I was
Mhm.
like, no, if I was that
Mm.
cameraman, I would have taken that van and gone.
I don't know. Like
You don't sleep
I
over.
agree, but also like it's got to be a tough call when you've got like you're basically in charge of this young girl who's not mentally well. Period.
Yeah.
If anything, if nothing else, she's at least mentally unsound and violent. And if you just kind of like leave, it's prudent for you in that moment, maybe, but
Mhm.
also maybe it's negligent in its own way. So
Maybe.
I don't know.
I'd be like,
Take
if
her
you
ass
guys
with ya.
like really want to stay, then you can stay here. I'm gonna go sneak out and take the van
Yeah.
and bring the police back in 15 minutes. Like,
That's the thing is like they just could have been calling the police a few times.
Yeah.
There's definitely some of that going on where it's
Yeah.
like, and they act like there's no cell phones. I don't know what year this is supposed to take place, but the footage and the Starbucks or whatever they go to is like, it looks modern enough for a cell phone.
looks standard time. Yeah, it doesn't look
Yeah, I think
like.
it's modern.
Yeah, I think so too. Also, one thing that should be called out is Caleb in this film is played by Caleb Landry Jones of Get Out fame, as well as several other things.
X-Men.
And that's something. Yeah, X-Men. Yeah, he's in quite a few things, and this is, as far as I know, the earliest thing I've seen him in.
Yeah, he's pretty young. He's got a band too.
Oh really?
Yeah, I thought Rob mentioned before, he's like, oh, he's a creepy guy. I think he's one of those guys. I think he's really good at what he does, but because most of the time he's playing like, you know, in Get Out, he's a villain. He's very effective in that though, too. You like really hate him. And in this, I felt like he was very effective. He added that creep factor for sure.
For sure. I wonder how many more movies he can do with a similar character before you start calling him a creeper outright.
Well, I don't know.
It's like 2 or 3.
We'll
Like,
see.
One more.
Is it the
He
Elijah
might be.
Standard?
He might be. Might be Roman and Ezra Miller territory.
Do you know what his band is called?
Ow.
I can look it up.
Did Ezra play a bunch of creeps? I know he played in
He has played some creepers.
Kevin. He's also played the fucking Flash, so I've kind of
Yeah. But so did this guy was also in an X-Men movie. He was like in, I think it was something about Wallflowers movie. He was in a movie.
Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Yeah, he was in that. Yeah.
He was in 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri, which I haven't seen. He was also in fucking the Twin Peaks revival. I had forgotten that till this moment. He's in a lot of shit. Good for him.
I'll look up this
anyway,
man, Bob.
I just wanted to call out his stuff.
I like
because I think he does a good job in this movie.
Cotton sort of like going through his bag of tricks where he's got like his little rings that he like uses to shock people when he touches them, and he's got his crucifix that like puffs the smoke out, and he's got the spooky sounds and like the roars, and like I really dig going through all that and like breaking it down and showing us like how he does what he does. I thought that was just like a really cool aspect to this movie that I had never seen done before.
Oh man,
Absolutely.
this might be a creeper. I don't know. I might be leaning into my own logic here.
Oh my god, when has that ever happened?
Yeah,
but yeah, I think I feel like I feel like I forgot what you said, Bob, and now I'm reacting to something I've forgotten.
Oh yeah, it's just Cotton's bag of tricks, and now he's showing us.
Oh yeah, dude,
how he pulls it off.
That was very like behind, like inside the magician's studio shit. Like,
yeah,
I love that shit, and like to me, that's that's one of the strongest aspects of this movie, because it came out in a time, and it's still kind of a time of suspicion and people feeling like there's a grand lie happening all around them and all this shit. So to then play into that by way of like, just like, okay, well, we're exposing the lie part so that when the real shit starts happening, you're gonna feel it better. And I really do think that it sold some of the creepiness later on a little bit better, which is why I kind of like still feel like it would be better if those things also turned out to be not real. They just weren't sourced from cotton. They were just the ravings of a kid who's been traumatized.
So Bob, it's under his own name. So he had an album drop in 2020, and it's just under Caleb Landry Jones. It's his first album's called The Mother Stone. So he might be a mother boy.
I see it every day.
We have to legally make a distinction there.
Yeah. He might be a creeper. I don't know. I'll have to do some more research. Clock him.
I've always been a creeper.
He might be.
Wow.
He's out there in the bayou too. Like my boy Gilbert. So I liked again like you mentioned before, Randy, the girl who plays the possessed,
Ashley Bell.
She does good. There's that one moment where they're kind of closing the door, and she's kind of does this little sly smile at the cameraman. I was like,
No,
oh man, yeah,
no ma'am.
And then like the drawings and stuff. And I kind of like the twist of the idea of where she starts breaking down, and you can see it as like this mental break. That was pretty good twist.
I thought so too, and it feels now to me in a way that it never did in the past, like a bit of a cop out that they then kind of walk that back
a little bit, because then you have to ask yourself, okay, at least, yeah, because she's got a demon baby inside her. That doesn't necessarily mean she's possessed. Right. So is she possessed or not?
kind of is the answer. And here's the thing is, like, even setting aside the internal logic, to me, it's like either this movie is about the toxicity of certain methods of faith and certain ways faith is sold to you, or it's about a man who's lost his faith regaining it, which is something we've seen, like I said, like done way better in other exorcism movies. And I just don't think that we need another one of those. I think that for this time and place, it would have made more sense to make a preponderance on what toxic religion can do to people.
Yeah.
Especially isolated people, especially young people, especially people that feel a lot of shame for something in their lives. Like that to me is the more interesting thing to talk about in this format. And the more I think about it, the more that's just like a detriment to this movie that I otherwise really love.
I agree, because going back on what we've been taught, even when we were talking about Halloween Ends last week, where we were like, you're setting up this character that you kind of make sympathetic, but they shouldn't be. So in this way, this father who is ultimately ended up being like justified and right. Like, oh, I knew some shit was going down, but like it kind of justifies his terrible, terrible actions of like, yeah, he was
about
right
to shoot
or something.
Yeah, he's just so like, it's his commitment to his faith almost leads him to shoot his own daughter.
Yeah,
that's compelling on its own. You don't need to gussy that up.
It is, but the ending makes it like, he should have shot his daughter because she was carrying the spawn of Satan, which is now going to destroy the world. It's like,
it was Cotton's lack of faith that caused this now. And that seems,
I don't think that's really the point you should be driving home. I agree. I think it's more compelling to leave it on the fact this girl breaking down, having a mental breakdown, pretending she's possessed, or being able to cope with her situation because she's done something that her society and specifically her family father deems as like unacceptable, and it's gonna shoot her because of it. And also her mental state, but also his mental state. I liked where he was like unable to accept it, like where the doctor's like, your daughter's pregnant, no, it's the spawn of Satan. It's like that's more interesting for him to not be able to accept it than it to be true. It literally
For it to be
is
a
the
group
spawn of
delusion
Satan. Yeah.
is so interesting.
Yeah.
But to have it be secretly just another underground cult of thorn situation is not so much.
Yeah. Or even, you know, you don't even necessarily have to have it be this cult. You could be the pastor still could have done this. You could still have, you can have all the pieces in place and just do a slight twist of she's not possessed. She is pregnant. It was because of the church, you know, and the man not being able to accept that and her still having the baby and the pastor being the father and this whole like world just crumbles apart. Like that can still be
Yeah, no, I
that's
think
a
there's
compelling movie.
I think there's a route like you described where it's like you still even if it's not like it's not a cult that is actively correct in what they're doing. It's just a group of people who are isolated who are practicing like ancient traditions because they like, you know, they're people who are
True
isolated.
Detective.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly like that. That's obviously like a very compelling tale of that was done with True Detective. And if they had done something similar here and just stuck with it, like they could have still had their big bombastic ending.
Yeah, for sure.
And then so like that's a hindsight thing where it's like I think that they did the ending that they did purely. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a studio note where it's like you can't leave it like this. You got to have a big moment at the end with a demon.
Could
Yeah,
be.
you
know?
got to end it flashy. I could see that happening.
So you could have
give us
had
some
both.
pop. You gotta give us some boom.
A little bit of that zing. Some of that
boom, boom,
some of that.
Wow, you gotta give us some of the zing.
I'm gonna suck your soul out of your mouth.
Through your mouth.
I think there's
That's a throwback.
There's like some solid ass scares sort of throughout this movie. Nell showing up, I think the first major one that got was like Nell showing up at the hotel and she's like totally out of it and then just pukes and starts undressing. Pretty fucking spooky.
Yeah.
There's another scene
Killing
in the house.
cat.
Yeah.
Dude, yes.
For me.
Beating the cat to death with the camera,
dude.
while she's naked is not chill. She like sleepwalks.
Not chill.
It's not chill, bro.
That's not chill, girl.
And she starts making these baby noises, and it sounds like an actual fucking baby.
That was creepy.
Speaking in Latin, and then she takes her baby doll and drowns it in the bathtub.
Yeah,
dude, I would be out of there. I'd be like, see ya.
No, for sure.
This truly is the last exorcism for me.
At the hotel, the camera, I would be like, nah, we need to call the popes.
Yeah.
I am not dealing with this shit. Popes need to come now.
1-800-popes.com. Let's do it.
Yeah.
In the art, she draws the camera dude like totally dismembered and shit. I'd be like, fucking goodbye.
Yeah.
Especially
like,
with
what are you scared of this little girl? What are you scared of? It's like,
Yes.
dude, there's a person here who has intentions of cutting me in parts. I don't care if she can. I don't want her to try.
Yeah, for sure.
She starts during the exorcism, like in the barn, she's like doing the countdown where she's breaking her fingers one at a time. God.
That was so cool.
Yeah.
But see, that's also, I mean, I don't think somebody could push their narrative, even if they're in some like weird state where they're breaking their own fingers.
Yeah, you'd have to
taunting somebody. That's where it kind of, it wants to have its cake and eat it too. It's got a cool message. It really does.
Yeah.
But it's also trying to sell this idea of possession, and it can justify it at the end because you could say like, well, she really was possessed and she really was pregnant. And so she really did have both of these situations going on, but in a way, like it allows you to be able to pull stuff off like that. Like, of course, yeah, she is possessed, so she could break her fingers. But like, it just kind of, even though they do pull off both, it makes it weaker, which is weird. Like narratively, it does. It's okay. Like like logically,
it's
like,
only okay because of what I consider to be an erroneous decision. Of the ultimate nature of what's happening.
Yeah.
So I don't know. To me, it's like that. I could also like. it's unlikely that somebody could do that in their delusion, but also people do a lot of fucking horrible things to themselves and others while under like manic delusions. So I don't know, man. I think that it's possible because like people hurt themselves all the time in manias. Like,
yeah,
I don't think that's completely out of the question.
just like stand there and break your own finger. Oh fuck.
It's a lot, but I don't know. I don't have the background to really say definitively, but from what I've seen, it doesn't seem like that's completely.
We are doctors.
If I was trying to face a demon though, and it was like, if you be too quiet for 10 minutes or no 10 seconds, I'll leave. Even if it was break the fingers, I'd be like
fingers mend.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
like,
I'm chill.
That demon
like,
wasn't
sucks.
going anywhere. It's just fucking.
I guess that is the thing, is the demons always lie, so you can't trust them anyway.
Yeah,
so.
that is the thing.
And now all your digits are fucked.
Yeah.
If you got the opportunity to go witness an exorcism, would you go?
I would not.
That's going to be on our YouTube channel next year.
What?
I don't know. I'm interested in that kind of thing, and I also
ride-alongs on exorcisms.
I don't.
I got a new Korean shaman friend. He's gonna take me.
Dude, that'd be wild. I would watch that. I just watch you freaking the fuck out.
Oh my god!
It's like, you're not helping, Justin.
I'm just eating cream in the corner. Oh, this is wild. This is some crazy shit.
Hey, girl, you want a lick of this pistache?
You want the stash, girl? You want a stash ride?
This'll fix what ails me.
Nope, that's not what I was talking about. The pistache.
The pistache.
No pistache ride, Bob?
Shall we bring this train into a station?
Yeah, come on, Bob. You're supposed to be leading us.
Keep the beat.
I am having an enjoyable conversation with my friends. Okay. Don't rush it.
What a loser.
Yeah. Let's rate the Last Exorcism out of 5. Juice, kick us off. How do you feel?
Yeah, I like this movie pretty good. And actually, it really wasn't until we started having this discussion that I had a lot of kind of problems with it, even though the ending came and I sat with it a little bit and I was like, do I really like it? Do I not? I was more leaning on the side of like, it felt a little like a cop-out or a little too cheesy a little bit, but I was also okay with it in some kind of way, kind of like Randy was saying. I do think they could have ended it in a better way. Some of the things again I didn't like is, if you're gonna pick, I like, the found footage, can't throw music in there like that in dramatic scenes. Just, you gotta keep it. I like Randy's suggestion of saying, like, they're in a house, you can have a radio playing some old gospel creepy song on a record. That'd be perfect. Yeah, there's some good brutality in this. The smashing the cat, even that kid getting his lip cut, looked pretty gnarly.
Dude, the bubbles that came out, that freaks me out.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that looked rough. And her breaking her fingers, and I liked, the kind of setup, him doing magic in church, him like
that was great.
I like that kind of setup too, of the irony of it, of like, this man is doing magic tricks in church to captivate these people who can't see that it's just a trick. They're being tricked. Like, I like that setup. That was clever. And him kind of like mocking the faith and that book that they have. And it was interesting. Also, too, that I've said it so many times, I'll say it again. That shit really does scare me, of being out in the boondocks. Like, when their first encounter with Caleb and him throwing the rocks and shit, that would be if we're ever in a group and shit like that happens, I am going to be frantically insisting we get the fuck out of there, because that shit truly does
50-50.
Yeah, but no, that shit like truly
50% exorcism.
Yeah, that shit really does bother me. So I thought that was effective overall. This movie's got some problems. I thought it was pretty cool though. And definitely like a good entry into the found footage subgenre. And so overall, I think I'm going to give this one also a 3.5. Robert, out of 5, where are you gonna put The Last Exorcism?
Yeah, I dig this movie. It's sort of it hits pretty well on all sides. I think the story's really interesting.
Mhm.
I just love the idea of having this priest like show us, you know, what's up his sleeve and like explaining how he's been conning these people for years, and his family's been conning people. I think he says they have exorcisms or exorcists have been in his family for like over 100 years. So like for a century, just like conning countless people. And it's just like fuck, that's so insane to think about. And now he's gonna like blow up their whole spot and like spill the beans. I love that idea going into this movie. Is super cool. Having it out in the middle of nowhere, Louisiana, is like kind of a perfect setting for a movie like this. All the performances are pretty spot on. There's really not any funky like CGI stuff that distracts or doesn't age well. Really, maybe at the very end where you see the demon in the fire might look a little bit wonky, but that's about it. And I'm willing to overlook that. So that the problem that Emily Rose has, this does not really. There's some solid fucking scares in this too that like make my hair stand up on the back of my neck. It's across the board solid. The only failure that really I think bothers me is the ending. It just could have had a like a home run of an ending, and instead it's just like pretty solid, you know. But it's still good. I still really like this movie, and I you know recommend people check it out. It's definitely one worth watching in the exorcism like subgenre. I think I'm going to come in with a 4 on this one as well. Randu, how do you feel?
Yeah, so like I said, like I've been a fan of this movie for a long time and sing its praises as often as I can because I really feel like it is lesser known, or at least less known than I think it ought to be within its subgenres. So I really kind of agree overall with you guys in general. Like I think that over time the ending has soured on me more and more the more I've heard people like argue against it and make solid points. It's really like had that impact on me. I was like, you know what, that's fair. I think that like the spectacle of what we get at the end was fine. Like Rob said, like it was a fine ending that could have been a really interesting, like thought-provoking ending on its own. And it's just kind of a shame that they couldn't find a way to make those two ends meet. But overall, like yeah, the effects are mostly solid. I really like the acting in this movie from Patrick Fabian, from Ashley Bell, I believe her name is. Like those two in particular, and like really everybody in the movie sells their stuff pretty well. I think that some of the like the cult stuff is a little like broad and overdone, which is one of the reasons that the ending kind of doesn't have the same impact. But yeah, I don't know. I think that within the found footage subgenre, there are definitely better films. Like Justin said, that big critique that I have is the same about the music cues and all that stuff. It's just like what you're in your attempt to actually elevate the scare in your scene, you're doing the opposite. You're actively counteracting what you want, and that's just a damn shame because those scenes are pretty scary on their own. I think that if you committed to even silence like on a lot of those things, like anything that's just a silent house, there's nothing scarier than that. You don't need a spooky ominous tone, like especially when it's counterintuitive to the format. Anyway, those are my big complaints about it. Overall, I really love this film. I want it to get more notice, and I want there to be other movies if they're going to make more Exorcist type movies, which obviously they are, whether it be in the original franchise or not. Hopefully they can like sort of like touch on some of these like interesting other ideas besides man of faith finds his way back through traumatic horrifying shit. Like that's done. I don't want to see more of that. We've got perfect installments of films for that. I like what they're saying here or what they could have said here a lot more, and ultimately it's just a damn good time for me. I'll watch it again and again. So I'm gonna give it a little boosted. I'm gonna go with a rare quarter point and give it a 4.25 for me.
Whoa.
4 1/4 from
Just out of
Randu.
sheer love for the
Do that
project.
quick math, Bomb.
Working on the quick Math
Tabulating.
right
Tabulating.
now.
Tabulating.
It is gonna be a 3.9 aggregate.
Whoa.
All right.
You gave it a 3.5 too, Bob?
I gave it a 4.
Oh, you gave it a 4. Okay. Damn, I went lowest, huh?
You did.
Oh, show.
Wow.
All right, let's jump over into our Rotten Tomatoes segment one more time and see what the critics and users think about The Last Exorcism.
Certified.
That's enough. Okay. The Last Exorcism. This is our Rotten Tomatoes segment in which I'm going to have these gentlemen guess what the best of their abilities. Blah, 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 blah. We already know this works. We've done it twice already. So let's start with Bob. Bob, we have here 164 critic reviews to cover. 164. Keep that number in mind and tell me what you think the aggregate positive score is for this film on Rotten Tomatoes.
I think it'll be overall positive, but definitely not through the roof. I could see people having all kinds of problems with this, really. I'm going to go with I'll take a 70%, please.
70 percentile. Juice, where you landing?
I think it could be lower. I'm going to go 65.
65. All right. Well, Bibby, you're going to take this one. It's a 72. You were just a couple off.
Very close. Very close. Should have
Very
one
close.
knowledge your ass.
Ooh, you would have gone down and lost anyway. Like an
Yeah,
idiot,
you always
like
go
a
down.
loser.
Always going down.
What a loser.
All right. Now it's time for Bob to eat some words, probably.
Yeah, probably.
Juice, why don't we start you with the audience score? There's over 50,000 audience ratings, a significant number. Why don't you tell me what percentage you think of those are positive?
I think it's going to be probably similar to the critics. I don't think it's going to be very polarizing. Maybe people could have a problem with the ending, but so 72, I'll take 69 dudes.
69 dudes.
69 dudes!
All right. Bob, how about you?
Man, I think this is going to be one of those that's like super close to the critics, like real close. Should I go lower than 69? Yeah, I'll take 65. I'll take a 65.
65. Well, Bibby, you swept this one, but I got to tell you, it wasn't an impressive guess based on what I'm seeing here.
Oh no.
35%
Holy
from the
shit.
audience.
Holy shit.
Wow.
Whoa.
Somebody campaigned against this motherfucker. Like, that's
That is
insane to me.
nuts.
I don't think it deserves that.
Wild.
I think people have a knee jerk against found footage.
That's
and,
super low, though. Holy
that's my
shit.
guess. Yeah, it's crazy low. I
Bob,
don't
that's a
understand it.
hell skeet sweep.
Yes, we are
Got
sweeping
all
the
the
skeets.
skeet this week. Sweet.
All the
That's all the
Just a
skeets,
typical
man.
Sunday afternoon for Bob.
Just
Sweeping up
skeeting
that
raw.
skeet.
yeah.
Here's the critics' consensus. It doesn't fully deliver on the chilly premise of its Blair Witch style premise, but The Last Exorcism offers a surprising number of clever thrills. Was 2010, were people still comparing every found footage movie to the Blair Witch Project? Is that
Damn, yeah, that's like
by
11 years
default?
ago.
Because there's other reviews I've just read from other critics that are like, it's not, it just turns into the Blair Witch Project. Or what does this person say? He just desperately wanted to use this line. It's disappointing, if not exactly surprising, when the halfway point the film turns into the Linda Blair Witch Project. God damn, dude.
Yeah,
You just
I don't
need to
really
use that
agree
pun.
with that.
I also don't
with that
agree.
at all.
What midway point is he talking about?
Yeah.
Like, at what point does it stop? Does it start being something else?
Because she vomits once. Like
What year does did Rec come out?
Ooh, I
Wasn't
don't
that
know.
like 2007 or something?
something like that.
I'm not
Sounds
sure.
about right.
Yeah, 2007 Like, this
Whoa,
is
nailed it.
2010. This is
Yeah.
not like,
Oh,
I gotta
Whoa,
think that
hey,
like
yo.
these are just
Hey,
not like big
hello,
horror
hey.
Hey.
critics that are reviewing this, because like Blair Witch is very much a different thing than this. Like
Yeah.
top
yeah.
to bottom, the
Very
only
much.
similarity is the camera.
Yeah.
That it is
Ah.
a movie. That is the
Yeah.
similarity.
It's a
And
movie
I mean,
that is
I'll end the
where the characters
six,
hold the
but
camera.
Yeah. But
like
no,
that.
it's
Yeah,
not.
and like there's nothing to do with witches. There's nothing to do with like I don't know. That's a whole different thing, and I don't get it.
Hey.
Anyway,
Oh.
here's one more
Well,
negative review for the
yo.
funsies. Somebody uses a thesaurus here. The film is worth. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. It may seem churlish in this day and age to fault the film for being
Ooh.
unoriginal and derivative, but unfortunately, the many nods to The Exorcist overpowered the original admirable elements of The Last Exorcism. What are these people fucking talking about? Can you just
No, I
not
don't
have an
know.
exorcism movie where people just claim it's a like just an exorcism does not mean it's The Exorcist.
Yeah.
Like, that's very obvious. Like I don't understand this shit.
Very different movies. Very different movies for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
All three actually today. I didn't necessarily plan it out like this, but they all have a pretty different take. Like you get to see where it's rooted in, the exorcism and how other movies can try to get away from that. Even like, The Wailing has its own kind of thing going on. So it's nice if they're gonna do a new trilogy or whatever. Move it away from the Catholic Church or something. I like the idea at the beginning of him explaining like, oh, the Catholic Church gets all the credit, but everybody does exorcism. It's like, I want to see more of that shit, kind of.
Dude, that trilogy is going to be a doo-doo in the pants of America.
Sure.
I mean, sure.
I mean, yeah.
Here's a user's negative review for fun. The Last Exorcism is a good example of a horrible found footage horror movie. The plot is trying to be original in some way that ultimately fails due to some blatantly noticeable cliches. There was nothing remotely chilling or scary about it. There was no tension whatsoever. It is incredibly boring. And don't get me started on that awful, awful ending. It's like the writer said, let's just have a bunch of characters get together for no explained reason and perform some disturbing witchcraft stuff. I understand that in found footage movies, some things aren't fully explained, but that was just disappointing and lazy, and this whole movie was a mess. The only redeeming quality is that it was well acted. That is the only reason it gets 1 star. Otherwise, it would have gotten ½ star. Very poor excuse for a horror movie. Blah, blah, blah. The first and last
There
Exorcism,
are real documentaries that are just like this film. Like that amazing Randy guy or whatever who just reveals like church's secrets. That shit happens. It's real. Like
he says, let's get our characters together for no explained reason.
Yeah, why are these people together?
Maybe turn the sound on next time. I don't know what to fucking tell you.
Randy's level of spite as he reads that is fucking aming. I love it.
It's a lot of spite. It's not diminishing either. I'm gonna have to sleep with this spite.
A spiteful sleep.
You're making me sleep with this.
Restful spite. All right, that's Rotten Tomatoes.
We did a segment. Now let's go on to another segment. It's totally time for trivia.
It's totally.
Okay. So Last Exorcism doesn't have quite as much richness of trivia sections on IMDb, but I will read some interesting things that I found. The scene in which Nell was given a pair of red Doc Marten boots stemmed from the fact that the insurance company refused to cover Ashley Bell for her exorcism scenes if she was running around barefoot. So that's kind of fun. It actually is it turned out to be a good beat, I thought.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah.
It was a nice humanizing moment for a character that didn't get a lot of screen time or even that many lines until that
she got
point.
some sick Doc Martens out of the deal.
He did. Ashley Bell did all the bends and contortions of her body on her own. No special effects were used because she has hypermobility, which is an exaggerated increased mobility or loose joints more flexible than ordinary. A very common problem which affect more than 15% of the world population, without it. What? Without it involves a pathology. What the fuck does that mean? That's not grammar.
That's not grammar. That's not how you grammar.
I don't grammar that way, dog.
You grammar crazy, dog.
You got crazy grammar, dude. Calm it the fuck down. The film's poster was banned in the UK. I guess. The film's poster was banned in the UK after receiving complaints deeming the image offensive. And I looked up more about this, and I guess some people thought it looked like a sexual assault survivor, which
doesn't she have like her legs kind of spread?
she's
she's also
doing like the back. She's bending over her back.
She?
And her dress is kind of red, I guess, towards the front of the bottom of her dress.
I'm looking
but
at
it's really kind of yeah, I don't know. I think it's that one. I could be wrong. Maybe it's a different poster too. I tried to find out, but
yeah, the one I saw,
it's a little
the one
strange.
I saw, she's like up in a corner,
in the corner of the room, and
and
it
her
does look like
legs
her
are kind of
legs are kind of
spread.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe it was that one, but I tried looking to find which specific.
Oh, I
poster they were
see
talking
this
about.
one you're talking about, Rainy, where she's bent backwards, and it's black and white, but it does look like her dress is all covered in blood.
Hey, it's definitely covered in blood, and like I don't know. It's just the placement of the blood the problem. If it's that one, I don't know.
Could be,
but
yeah.
whatever. Fucking UK, baby. A crew member's brother was a real exorcist and was on set advising director Daniel Stamm. He makes an unbilled cameo in the film and can be seen to the left of Reverend Cotton Marcus when he delivers his sermon about the Prince of Lies. You had a real exorcist on this movie that's exposing
that's like
the
making
fakeness
fun of it.
That's fucking interesting.
That's pretty
I am
wild.
curious.
Yeah, I kind of do. We
Curious
need to do
what
an
the
interview
thinking
with
was
the
there.
Exorcist. Let's get one on here. Call in today,
You're right.
or call in tomorrow. Okay. Call in next time.
Just call.
Call in tonight.
Call whatever.
This movie was partially inspired by Marjoe, 1972 documentary about a fundamentalist huckster named Marjoe Gartner. And I looked up this a little bit more. He turned into basically like he was this guy who was raised to be a child priest. He was ordained at like 4 years old or some shit, or not priest, pastor. And when he was like 16, I think that said like somebody died. I think his mother died or something, and I don't know, something horrible happened. I can't remember what. And it like disillusioned him, and then his dad absconded with like all his money. And then he was like gave up on the church basically and became an actor of some capacity and was in a bunch of stuff. It seems like
that's wild.
I kind of want to see that documentary.
Yeah, way to turn lemons into lemonade, my guy.
For sure. And last but not least, as a novel marketing device, the filmmakers used chat roulette to publicize their film. That dates this movie
Bob, you know all about that, don't you?
All of the people masturbating.
There's
Bob used to
all
spend
those
all his time, extra time.
all those
on
semi-flaccid
right.
dicks. All those semi-flaccid dicks see this girl, and then she turns into a team, and they're like, "What the fuck, man? That's not cool."
That is really funny, actually.
Rob spent a long time on old chat roulette.
Oh yeah, just
a whole semester.
All my
Sometimes you just
life.
gotta soak in all the wieners, you know.
I forgot about that app, man. I wonder if there's anything else like that going on these days.
I mean,
Probably
sure.
not.
I'm sure if you look. Yeah, that's it for trivia. It's totally not time for trivia anymore.
Nice, thank you, Randu. Hey, we got one final segment. We're doing one big old cooter segment for all three movies. Let's do it.
Straight chillin'.
Cooter of the week!
Juice, what is a cooter and why do we hunt them?
Okay, Cooter's character type and a straight chillin' exclusive.
I thought you were gonna Kamehameha my ass.
The cooter must have 3 of these 5 points to be considered a cooter, but we want the cooter with the most points. The 5 points of cooterdom are sexual deviance, manipulation, smug arrogance, overall look and attire, and overall patheticness. Boys, who is the cooter of the week between these 3 films?
Tough call.
It is a tough
I mean,
call.
are we gonna include demons?
That's a good question. Pazuzu is full-blown cooter material.
My boy Pazoos.
I mean, Alabam's not much better.
Alabama.
Yeah,
My
that
boy
bitch
Alabama. Sweet
Alabama.
home Alabama.
Alabama v. Pazoos.
Ooh, I think Pazoos wins that one, but
My boy Lucifer kind of sucks wieners too.
yeah, she's got like my boy Lucifer kind of sucks wieners.
Wieners too.
Let's not forget.
Jesus Christ.
No, Jesus.
My
is not a
demon
cooter.
sucked 67 dicks.
I got the worst possession. I just suck a bunch of dicks.
I got the glory hole demon. Blah. I think we're the cooters now.
Probably.
So I think so.
I think so.
No.
And it also isn't penetrating you. That's a bummer.
I
That is a
think
bummer.
so.
Bob went falsetto. So I think that was the
shit.
climax.
Oh shit. We've been podcasting too long.
Yeah,
Ours
all
broke.
agreed.
I'm all hyped up on cream, boys.
I'm my pistache.
I'm full of pistache and ass.
Damn.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't want to go to the demons because that seems like too easy to me.
There wasn't. I mean, the only one that stuck out, like Emily Rose, the guy, like the lawyer. You know, he's real kind of
Yeah.
Kind of.
skeevy, but we
But
don't
he's
see
also,
enough
like,
of him.
right most of the time.
Yeah. No. I'm talking about the lawyer who like runs the firm or whatever.
Oh, yeah, he kind of sucks.
But there's nobody. I think probably
Caleb, maybe.
I was gonna say the cult in the Last Exorcism in general. They're like
the leader,
Maybe.
the whole thing.
preacher?
Yeah. Because I guess like while she was going to church, they must have done whatever ritual to get her pregnant.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And they're like,
With her
taking
brother's
advantage of
consent.
this family.
Mm.
And so you got manipulation there. I would say sexual deviancy too, because she's carrying the
Yeah.
demon baby or whatever.
Uh-huh.
Smug arrogance. I don't know that we get enough time to actually like say that they're smug necessarily. Goddamn, every time you move, Randy, Pazuzu's just in my shit. I keep forgetting.
Oh.
Who?
Let's see.
God.
Manipulation, smug arrogance. I don't know if he's smug, arrogant, patheticness.
Pathetic.
I'm gonna go with Caleb. I specifically because I think he
Yeah.
hits both of those.
I guess
Like,
if he
I
would
don't
like
know.
sell his sister out, then that's
He
part
sold
of the
his
sister
sexual
out.
deviance. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, he sold his sister down the river to
manipulated.
be a vessel for someone's demon baby. Like that's pretty
he
fucked
does
up.
seem smug. As
He
fuck,
does,
too.
He
yeah.
does seem smug.
Especially
he
that first
dresses-
encounter or whatever that he has with
I
them.
guess, yeah. I guess he dresses normal, but he's got enough. He hits enough marks to be.
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, he absolutely does. Like, what's left? Anything left?
Patheticness? Is he pathetic?
Patheticness.
He
I
gets
think
cut
he's
up.
I think
Yeah.
he's like. I think it's a pathetic his whole thing is that their mom died and it messed him up, and now he's like selling his
Yeah.
sister down the river, and that's fucking pathetic to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Old bitch ass Caleb.
Yeah.
Yeah, your
You
mom would really
creeper.
want you to fucking sell your sister to the goddamn devil, you idiot.
You dumb piece of shit.
Yeah, listen to his music. What if it's just like super fucking creepy?
It could be.
Glory hole, glory hole.
Glory
called-
hole demon.
It's called the Mother
glory
Stone.
hole.
The Mother Stone.
That is a strange.
That sounds like an
title.
MCU thing. That doesn't do it for me really in the cooter
Oh,
world.
I got the infamous Mother Stone. It turns everybody into a mother.
Mother.
It makes you pregnant instantly.
Yeah.
Hulk's now pregnant.
I'll listen to it later. He's got
Alright.
he's got a creepy little like creeper stash. I'll say that. He keeps the stash, but it's real thin. It's like it's
Ooh.
not
He's-
very full.
He's really great at being like low key threatening. Like that.
Yeah,
I
he
mean,
is.
that actor, I mean, specifically, like
He
this
is.
character and this actor, he's really
Yeah.
good at that.
I remember he was hardcore cooter and Get Out. I think he won our cooter of the week
Absolutely.
for Get Out.
I think
Yeah.
he's an incumbent cooter.
Yeah, maybe he just lives his
Yeah.
life that way.
That seems like the most
Probably.
likely reality.
Let's just assume that. And
I'm
put
going
it
to
out
assume
to
that.
the world.
We
and
make a
tell the
lot of
world.
judgments about people's personal lives here on Straight Chilling.
It's why we do this.
I think the word "we" should be taken out of that sentence.
I like to judge people.
It's really fun.
It's really the only reason I do that.
Oh,
It's what gets me
shit.
out of bed in the morning.
Who can I pass judgment on? Who's next in line? You son of a bitch.
All right.
Yeah, I think we got him. I think
We
that's
got
a
him.
solid,
I think so,
solid
too.
cooter.
That's-
Yeah.
Good enough for me.
The real life
our-
person, Caleb Landry Jones, got him.
Yeah.
Okay,
The
well,
man.
The human being that is real. We got him. I'm so tired.
Yeah.
It's like
Okay. Yeah, you're-
delusional.
Okay. Hey, Rob, let's keep
All right.
the beat.
Let's-
Keeping the beat.
That's it. That's the show. That's I have so
Boys,
many
our
notes.
last
the end.
show before Halloween. You know,
I know.
that's it. This is it.
Can't believe the
Spooky
Gans is in the
season.
books already.
It's wrapping up, boys.
No, it's
I-
gone by so fucking fast. It's
I
crazy.
I always imagine Bob sitting, actually both of y'all sitting in the fogged up room, sad on the couch. But I always, the end of Halloween almost comes as like a little relief for me because I go so hard every time. I'm always like, I gotta do all of this shit. And then when it's over, I'm like, oh, I
Yeah.
did it. I did it. Okay. It's like finishing a race. Like it's time
Yeah,
for
I
Christmas.
get that.
It's
Well,
time
it
for
definitely is that way
Christmas.
now that we do fucking God knows how
Yeah.
much content creation.
Dude,
this
for the
movie-
podcast, we went fucking ham this year. Holy God.
12 episodes released in the month of October.
dude.
Oh my God.
12.
Live
I hope you-
events and fucking
12.
YouTube.
I hope the children all approve
Yeah.
and are in our corner for those. Thanks everybody for sticking with us for
Yeah.
another
For sure.
Ganza and beyond.
Mhm.
For sure. Yeah, we do. Despite our bitching, we like doing this.
We like it because
bitching
we
is
get
the
to
fun
judge
part.
people.
Yeah. Fuck all of you. Losers.
Makes it really worth it.
Life's about winners and losers, and that we're fucking winners. Okay.
Okay, that's a few episodes ago. That's
That we got a winner. Let's move on. Cool. So yeah, we are going to be back next week with a brand new show. As always, we're tackling another Patreon pick. This one was chosen by your boy Dongster Sam.
oh yeah.
The movie is Tag from 2015. I believe it's a Japanese film. And this is a new one for all three of us, right? I don't think we've ever seen
It
this
will
one
be, yeah.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that is correct.
Cool. So yeah, check out Tag. I believe your boy Dongster said it's up free on Tubi, so it should be pretty easy to find. Slam that into your eyeballs. Get ready for next week's show. Until then, please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. Follow us on Twitter at str8_chilling, on Instagram at Straight Chilling Podcast. You can send us an email at straightchillingpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to join in our daily Slack channel conversations, hit us up on one of those social media outlets. I'll send you a link so you can do so. And of course, happy Halloween, everybody. Hope you guys are out there having a good ass
Happy
time.
Halloween. Call in and tell us about your Halloweens.
Yeah.
Halloween is the shit.
Actually, I think we'll be casting on the day of Halloween, so if we don't get it, we'll get to it eventually. Just call in and let us know that we're
True.
It
Yeah,
trips me
let us
out
know.
that your hat just moves from
Yeah.
time to time, kind of unprompted seeming.
behind the scenes. Yeah, because you can't see down here where you got to squeeze them.
He's tugging. He's
Can't see
tugging
where
on
I'm
shit.
tugging on him. Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's Pazoose. He's got me.
My boy Pazuzu. That's my boy Lucifer right there. All right. Yeah, happy Halloween, everybody. And until next week, as always, please keep chilling.
Bye-bye.